couple friends. Everyone, right now. If you don't, I'm going to smite you with my third eye. Shmeezus is going to smite you. What's up, Philip? Do you think that abortion's wrong during the
I
first
don't
trimester?
know. I don't
Okay.
think it's wrong.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm only talking opposition. I do appreciate you for coming up here, man. We're going to go to move on to our next guest. Let's go ahead and see what our next guest has to say. Let's get up to 500 shares, y'all. What's going on? Do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I believe that after the 10th week, abortion is wrong
Okay, why?
because the 10th week of pregnancy is when a embryo becomes a fetus. That is when the fetus is fully developed and all it has to do is continue to grow. I believe that up until that point, it is a woman's choice, but after it becomes a fetus, I feel like it should be cut off.
Okay, yeah, and what significant differences or what significant development occurs at the 10th week?
The intestines move back into the body. Arms and legs are fully developed. The brain is fully developed. I'm not saying that it feels pain or
Okay.
anything like
So
that.
no, they're not fully developed. Actually, the brain doesn't become fully developed until about 25 years old. And if the arms and the legs
So
were
you're
fully
saying that
developed,
you
one
could
second,
still
don't
be
interrupt me. I've been allowed you to, I've allowed you to speak.
okay.
And
All
then
right,
if
you're sorry.
Right. So then, no, the arms and the legs are also not fully developed because if they were fully developed, then we would all have little fetus baby arms and little fetus baby legs. So obviously, they're not fully developed, right? And like, I don't think that like any like certain criteria of development is going to like assert like the rightness or wrongness of this action. Specifically, the criteria that you're giving me, right? So on one note, you said I really want to press you on this one point. You said that the brain is fully developed. Do you truly believe that the brain is fully developed at 10 weeks?
That I'm not. That is a hard one because I do know. I have done that research myself as well on the that we're not fully developed until we are up in our 20s. I just turned 26, so
Okay.
like, I'm not.
So,
I'm still probably not there,
right. So
but
let's think about it this way. You said that the brain is fully developed. Thank you so much for the hand hearts at 10 weeks. So this would imply that this brain would be conscious, correct?
it's not viable. No.
I said this. No, you said the brain is fully developed at 10 weeks, and this would imply that that brain would be conscious, correct?
Yes.
Right. So no, consciousness cannot emerge until about 24 weeks with the thymocortical connections, and I could give you academic publications on this.
Yeah, I have researched that as well. That they believe that is when 23 to 24 weeks is when a fetus does begin to feel pain,
Don Man, thank you
and
for the subscription, right?
um,
So feeling pain is not going to be indicative of consciousness. For example, like single cell amoebas can like feel pain or have some like response to external stimuli, yet we know that they are not conscious, right? So like consciousness can only emerge at like 24 weeks, and this is what is like proven by the science. So this would direct the statement that you made earlier about a fetus's brain being fully developed and conscious at 10 weeks old. Not to mention that this would still be in violation of a couple principles as to why I think that abortion's right. First of all, just the overall principle of like bodily autonomy, right? So I don't think that any like significant change in the fetus's development up until a point is going to constitute like a revocation of a woman's bodily autonomy. I think that regardless of all factors, this mother is at the end of the day supplying this fetus the nutrients that are needed to support life of any kind, right? And because consent is ongoing, consent can be withdrawn, and I really do not think that a human will ever have a right to use another person's body without their consent. And then, not to mention that it's not consciousness, and us as humans, we value consciousness, not biological life.
so are you saying that you believe that? I know we're just like this live is about the first trimester technically, but so are you saying that you believe that even at like 30 weeks, just say that a woman should be able to decide that she's done being pregnant, she's over it, and pull the plug? At what point do you believe that the fetus's life does become a life that should be taken into consideration as well? Because we can't give
Well, the
consent
thing
until
is
we're
at 30
on
weeks,
it.
that fetus is viable and it could be removed in the fetus so that life could be sustained, right? So that would just be considered an induction or a C-section and no longer an abortion at that point.
In most states, yes, but there are some states that
No,
will
that's
practice
no,
abortion
that's unironically
or
what it is.
would.
After the point of viability, it's an induction or a C-section. It's live delivery, and this is what occurs after the point of viability.
So you believe that abortion is wrong after in my state, 23 weeks is viability. So you would believe that it would be wrong after that.
Yeah, because you could just have a live delivery. But, what matters is the reality of it. And the reality of it is that abortions don't happen after that point because live delivery can happen, right? So anyways, I still don't like necessarily see why you think that abortion's wrong. Because like earlier you said that like abortion's wrong at 10 weeks and moving forward because of the brain and the arms and the legs are fully developed. The brain nor the arms nor the legs are fully developed at 10 weeks. So this is going to be like in direct contradiction to your reasoning as to why you think abortion's wrong.
But our brain, our arms, nor our legs are developed at 38, 39, 40 weeks.
Okay, I don't know where you went.
Sorry,
Well,
my
what
on 20%. It was notifying me.
Right. Well, what's important at like 28 or 30 weeks is the fact that after the thymocortical connections occur, this brain has the ability to deploy consciousness. And this is like the defining factor for me. I value human life. Of this human life has the ability to deploy consciousness, and a 10-year-old fetus does not have the ability to deploy consciousness. Therefore, it is not of value.
I can see your point. I think personally that honestly, at the end of the day, what I think, what you think, what everybody that's been on your live before has said, it's
I mean,
all a matter of opinion at that
well,
point.
dude,
It's kind
well,
of,
don't just scapegoat the debate by saying it's an opinion, right? If you'd want to sit easy with your unjustified take that the brain is fully developed at 10 weeks when all science and common knowledge would contradict that, that's fine. But instead of just like scapegoating to the opinion, pivoting away from the debate, actually engage with me. Right? So you said abortion's wrong because the brain's fully developed at 10 weeks. The brain is not fully developed at 10 weeks, therefore abortion's not wrong.
I guess I just disagree that just because it has to continue to grow and connections have to be made, we continue to do that up until 25 years of life. So even at 10 weeks, even though it's not fully there, the brain is still there and it is still wiring and shooting certain signals to the teeny tiny body. Therefore, to me, it is a brain and it is worthy of the next 10 weeks to develop and have life.
Yeah, so tell me why you think that this human should be able or has the right to like the use of the mother's bodily autonomy without her consent. And then also not to mention that like why should a woman be forced by the state to provide the use of her body to someone when she doesn't want to? Thank you for the
Um,
corky.
because I guess I'm one of those people that if even if it is a you're on birth control thing, like I know several people that were on birth
Thank you for that
control
a
and they
mustache.
conceived their child and that
Can you
child
please
was
answer the
born.
question like more directly?
I'm getting there, please, sir.
No, you're not answering anything. I asked
Yeah,
you
I
why
am.
should a woman be
I'm getting
forced by
to.
the state?
You are
One
telling
second.
me.
One second. You're
You
not
are telling
answering
me to
anything.
answer a question, and I am
I
answering that
No, no, no.
question
Why should
to
a woman?
say
Why should
that
a
that is
woman? Why
the
should?
best
Why?
thing that
One second.
happened
One
to
second. No,
90%
you're
of
saying
women.
nothing. You're saying nothing. Why should a woman be forced by the state to provide the use of her body to someone else when she does not want to?
Because she gave consent to the possibility that it
Thank
could
you for the hanging
happen, whether
lights.
she's on birth control or not, when
Right.
she had sex.
Right. So no, consent is very context specific and consent is ongoing, right? So consenting to sex is not consenting to pregnancy because A, like I just said, consent is context specific, and B, you can't consent to a biological process. And none of these facts disregard the idea that consent is ongoing. A good analogy of this is going to be if a woman consents to the act of sex and then revokes her consent from that act of sex, would it be okay for the man to continue the act of sex?
No.
Right. So therefore, this would imply that consent is ongoing, and if we accept this notion that consent is ongoing, like you just did, we would have to realize that she would be able to withdraw consent from that pregnancy by terminating that through the means of abortion.
But in in my views, the way that I view things, when you know that it's a possibility, regardless of birth control, regardless of how how things go down, you know that it's a possibility that it could still happen. So if you
Right.
don't want it to happen at all, you want a surefire 1000% it's not going to happen.
Right. So do you give a essay? Do you give an essay exception?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. So, I mean, at least you realize that, right? And then, like, so we know that that's a possibility, but we also know that abortion exists as a way to address a pregnancy should it occur, right? So, like, and then also, not to mention that I don't think that the acknowledgement of that risk is once again consenting to pregnancy because you can't consent to a biological process. And this also wouldn't make it inherently wrong because if that risk does come to fruition and abortion is taken as a means to resolve that risk, well, like, this isn't going to be wrong in of itself because the fetus isn't of a moral stature because the fetus does not possess consciousness. And like, I truly believe that you would like, I want to ask you a few questions because I think you would agree with me here. So
Okay.
imagine this. Imagine a human that like barely has a brain, barely has any level of consciousness, or no, sorry, no level of consciousness. They're just like a meat sack with bones, blood, and skin. Would it be immoral to like end the biological life of this thing?
No, I don't think so.
Right. So now imagine the second hypothetical. If we're in like a black mirror reality where I'm able to upload my consciousness to a computer and become an AI and live on like technology like inside of a computer with like the same thoughts, feelings, expressions, and attitudes I have now, would it be immoral for a hacker to hack into that system and end my life?
Yes.
Right. So what we just asserted with the first idea is that A, the biological life of humanity yields no moral relevance, and B, the consciousness of humanity yields moral relevance. Right? So if we accept these two ideas, which you just agreed to, that biological life doesn't matter but consciousness matters, well, the fetus is biologically alive but does not possess consciousness. Therefore, it does not matter.
Are you are you going to throw a party if you change my mind on those last 2 weeks that I am sitting here arguing about? Is
Anything
it?
else? Do you have any response to what I just said?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And like I said, I'm not one of those people that's going to come on here. I wasn't even arguing the weeks like 1 through 10. Anyways, I do think that that should be
Oh.
allowed. But so you know, it's only 2 weeks that I'm arguing anyways, and I'm not going to sit here and say that you might not have just changed my mind about it.
Yo,
I'm
W,
not one of
honestly,
those
yo, W,
people.
guess in the comment section. High key, W, guess. Wait, yo, thank you. All right, well, thank you so much for coming up. I hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much for accepting it. I enjoyed talking about it, honestly.
Hell yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Yo, W fucking guessed. Yo, W fucking guessed, man. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next guest here, guys. If we're enjoying the debates, make sure we're tippity tap tapping away on that phone screen. We're so close to 300,000 likes. Also, share the live with a couple of friends for that big fucking win. Hell yeah. Also, Amanda, thank you so much for the Venmo, Amanda. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate everyone who donates via Venmo because I get 100% of that compared to 30% of what is sent over TikTok. Just know I appreciate you guys. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next guest here, though. Let's go to talk to Luke. But yo, big fucking W. What a pleasant lady, honestly. What a pleasant lady. Thank you for that. Love you. What's up, Luke? How old are you?
Hey man, I'm 20 years old. Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sweet. Also, 1 second. By the way, guys, we have 5 more. We have 5 more minutes on our subwave, so consider subscribing. But anyways, man. So, do you think that abortion is wrong during the first trimester?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Okay, why?
So, I mean, the way I look at it is like once that child is conceived, whether or not it's like day two of conception or like 7 months in, it's still a life. So I feel like even though it's like early enough, like I know, first trimester is like very, very early, so it's hard to like look at that child as like an actual human just because they are like, you
Right.
know, very small. But I mean, the way I see it, give it 9 months and that baby will be born and that baby will be cherished and loved by everybody who comes into contact with it. So,
What if it isn't cherished and loved? Would abortion be okay then?
no, I'm just using that as like, like
So then,
a
therefore, you're just being like you're using loaded and fallacious terms to make it seem like you're some like moral
well,
fucking crazy. No, you're just virtue signaling.
no,
That's just a virtue
yeah.
signal. But anyways, why it like in consideration to the fact that that's a life? Why does that mean that she has an obligation to let it use her body?
Well, okay, well, I'm trying to think about how to answer that for you. So I guess like saying let it use her body is kind of a rough way to say it. I mean, that baby
The
didn't choose.
dolls, exactly.
No. But what I'm saying is that baby didn't choose to be created. So it's like you're acting like the baby is somehow like a parasite to the mom, when in reality, the mom had sex. The mom, I totally understand, and I have, I have a slightly different viewpoint on like
All right. So the baby,
certain situations when it comes to abortion. Very,
so
very certain situations.
the baby
But
didn't
anyways, yep,
choose to be conceived,
right.
just like the mother didn't choose to be pregnant, right? So pregnancy
Well,
is a biological process that
yeah,
cannot be consented to because it's a biological process. Also, not to mention, as I've mentioned to other guests, that like consent is very context specific, right? And
hmm
consent is ongoing. When a mother consents to sex, well, she's consenting to that,
yeah,
sex. A mother can consent to pregnancy, but then consent is also ongoing, so she can withdraw that consent. But there's a lot of like possible ways that I could go about this with you. But I
yeah.
think the best way would be similar to how I had my conversation with the last guest, right? So let's imagine this. You think that abortion's wrong because that fetus is alive, right? So let me ask you these two questions. Imagine this: a human that has no fucking consciousness, no sentience, no rationale to any degree whatsoever. It is
Yeah.
a fucking meat bag of bones, skin, and blood,
Right.
teeth and eyes, all that gore. Would it be like immoral to end the biological life of this thing?
Um, yes, because how do you know what that human's perception of the world is? And also,
Right. I'm saying
on
it doesn't have a
well,
perception of the
right,
world.
but also does a I
Wait, no,
mean,
yeah, wait, no. Let's stay on that
no,
last
no, no, no,
point.
no, 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 no.
No, no, no,
So
no, 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 no. You just said, "How
let
would
me
you
ask
know?"
you one
No, no. I
question
want to
real quick.
clarify
Now,
this. I want to
no.
clarify this.
Hey,
No, no,
just
no. I want
give
to
me
clarify this with you. No, no, because this is a very
no.
important
Okay,
question.
all
No,
right.
no. This is a
Let me hear what
very
you
no.
have.
Stop, stop.
Let me hear.
Yeah, this is
Let me hear
this
your
is
clarification.
this
I'm
is very
listening.
important. So I just asked you a question.
All
If
right,
there exists
what you got?
like a human life
Yep.
that had like no consciousness at all, it was just a meat bag. Would it be immoral to end the biological life of that thing? And your response is no, because how do you know what the perception of that thing is? Well, it is quite literally stated in the question that it doesn't have any perception,
Okay. Okay.
right? So can you please answer the question?
Sure. Yeah. So from your perspective, okay, so let's say you're right. Let's say that human is just a lump of flesh with absolutely no consciousness and no awareness of life or no sense of reality or anything. Um, which I should also add, like that doesn't exist. But if it did exist, um, I don't. I guess the answer. I mean, that wouldn't even be a person then. And I know what you're going to say. A baby doesn't necessarily have
Don't, it's not chess.
a
Just
sense of
answer the
reality,
questions.
but
Just
or like that
answer the
sense of like
questions.
awareness
Just
that we're
answer the
talking about.
questions.
But
It's not chess. It's
in
not
the
checkers.
future, that baby is bound to. So
Okay,
I'm still going to say it's
okay,
immoral. It is immoral just
sweet.
because it is a human life. Now, the one thing I wanted to ask you
Now hold up.
is
Now
this
hold
is a
up
very
here.
good example.
Now hold up here. No, Luke, because there is so many
No, bro.
contradictions in this statement. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt
I
me.
so
Don't interrupt me, Luke. I'm talking. I'm Luke.
if
Luke,
you
I'm
would let
talking.
me
Luke.
if you would
I'm
let me
talking.
say something,
Luke, I'm talking. You
this
did
would
just say a
be
lot. No, you did just say a lot,
you've been
and we need,
talking for the past 3.
homie, Luke. We need to address what you just said. So I kindly ask you to let me speak. All right. So we really need to address what you just said. So you said in the case of this
And I
meat and
answered your
bod,
question.
you said in the case of this meat and this meat bag, this meat bag of a human, that it would not be immoral to end its life. Yet it is immoral
Right.
to end the life of a fetus because it's a human life. So let's just reflect on that statement. Well, in the first case of this meat bag, this is a human life too. Yeah, you said that's not immoral. And then you said abortion's wrong because it's a human life. Well, they're both human life, so this is a contradiction.
No. I said I did I if I said that, that's not what I meant to say that it would be immoral as in wrong in both cases. So you must have misheard me. That's not what I meant to say.
Okay, so it would be like wrong to like pull the plug on a brain dead patient.
Okay, yeah, I mean, well, I know you're probably going to try to interrupt me, but let me ask you a question here. So,
Can you answer?
say you're, what was that? I
So
said,
so it's wrong to pull the
well, I
plug
was
on a
going to
brain dead
answer
patient.
okay, my, I'm saying yes, and I'm going to follow that up with a question that's going to provide you an example of something that I want to hear your response on. So, let's say there's a person who, and this is a very common thing. Let's say somebody got in a really bad accident, and let's say, okay, let's say they're in so brain dead and coma are different things, right? So, and just give me a couple minutes to talk without interrupting me. Just want to clarify that real quick, right? So,
Not a couple
say a
minutes.
fetus
Make your point,
or
but make it concise.
whatever. All right. Well, let me explain this to you. So, think about a fetus is not brain dead. A fetus has a future consciousness once that baby develops into a older, more grown human being. That is going to be a alive person, not a not a brain dead person like you were talking about. Compare that to somebody who is, let's say, in a coma. Just because somebody's in a coma doesn't mean that they're brain dead. It means that at that moment they are basically, like you were saying, a lump of flesh with with nothing else but just their body. But there is still a future of them getting out of that coma and living their life. So basically, by your logic, abortion at the first trimester and pulling the plug on somebody in a coma, the way you see it, I mean, the way that I feel like a lot of people see it is
Wait, you gotta
those two
stop
things would
yapping.
be like, bro, I'm just like,
This is a debate.
I've given you like all the time to talk. I'm just trying to like say something. I want to hear your response on that. Like, what do you think of that whole like concept of
Thank you, Anthony.
like, do you think it would be like okay, like
Can I can
what?
I can I talk?
Yes,
Right. So
I
I'm gonna
mean,
talk. So I'm gonna talk now. Thank you for that, Rose. So first of all, I asked you that question in the preface of a brain dead individual. We were not talking about an individual in a coma, right? So first of all, you asserted that it's immoral to pull the plug on a brain dead individual. So like this fact alone is going to be in contradiction. It's going to be in contradiction of every single ethics community of every single hospital ever. This fact alone is going to be in contradiction of all legislation that has ever existed on the issue in the United States of America. This fact is going to be in contradiction of common sense, and this fact is going to be in contradiction of all medical professionals, right? So I want you to know that. But second, on the topic of an individual in a coma, well, there's a big difference between a fetus and an individual in a coma, right? So the individual in the coma has the ability to deploy consciousness because they have thymocortical connections, right? However, a fetus does not develop thymocortical connections until about 24 weeks, which is going to be outside of the first trimester. So I think that abortion is morally permissible for a couple of reasons. So first, on the reason of bodily autonomy, right? I think that we all have the right to do what we want with our body
mm-hmm.
in respect, like in a certain respect, right? And then the second point is that consent is very context specific and consent is ongoing. So a mother can consent to sex without consenting to pregnancy. And the third point is that fetus does not have the ability to deploy consciousness. And I strongly fucking believe that it is consciousness of which we value within humanity and not the biological life associated with it.
Okay. Let me ask you this: do you think in the first trimester that baby is part of the mother's body? Because you just said like they should have the right to do what they want with their own bodies. Would you consider the fetus to be part of the mother's body at that stage,
No,
or
but
separate?
I would consider the umbilical cord to be a part of the mother's body. I would consider her sustenance that maintains the life of the fetus to be a part of the mother's body, right? So I'm talking about the providence that is providing to that different body. And yes, you are right. It is a different body who does not have a right to the body of the mother without her consent, right? So consent is so very
Okay. Well,
the consent is so like important to this conversation on every single level, and like so is consciousness, right? It's consciousness that we value. The
bro,
fetus does not have
you're
the
you're
ability to
talking
deploy
about consent
consciousness.
between a Yeah, because they're a fetus, dude. They're gonna be in a. They're gonna like I said, give it 9 months, and that's a child. Like
Right. If you give it 9 months.
I don't know a simpler
Right. No.
way to
No. Right.
say it
You
other
just
than
made a
saying that
very.
like,
You just made a very
when you're
important point.
conceived,
You just
you are
made a
still going to
very
become
no.
who you are today.
You
Like
just made a very
that.
important point. If you give it 9 months, this fetus possesses the future ability to deploy consciousness. This fetus possesses future consciousness.
No, but
And
like what I'm
keyword though.
saying
No.
is
Stop talking.
it
Stop talking. Stop talking.
on.
Keyword. No. Stop talking. Denote the word future. Right.
I'm
So
not
the
talking. I'm
future
not talking.
only exists
I'm
in a
not talking.
figurative sense. Right? The future is nothing more than that of an abstract nature. So if you are going to say that the state should be forced, or a woman should be forced by the state to provide the use of her body to someone else without her consent because it will possess consciousness potentially in the future, you are insane.
Bruv, the woman. Okay, I know what you just said about like pregnancy and sex, how there being like a fine line of consent between the two of those, or whatever it was that you said about that. All I'm gonna say is like if a woman is gonna have sex unprotected, she's taking that risk, and unless the case of rape that is obviously there's nothing she could have done, and I don't want to get into. I mean, that's another subtopic of abortion, in my opinion, that could be discussed for hours separately. But I'm just saying, like in the case of like the mother willingly having sex and knowing, because everybody knows it.
Hello, Luke? Okay, Luke
This
is
could happen.
Luke is lagging
Right? Like,
very,
that.
very,
So,
very
I
bad.
hope you kind of understand where I'm coming from,
I didn't pick up
right?
a single thing of what you just said.
Okay, well, can you hear me now? I need to turn my Wi-Fi off and connect to my data.
Right.
You should be able to hear me now.
Sweet.
All
Sounds
right.
good. So
Just
yeah.
let me know
So
if it's
so a
cool.
couple points. So first
Okay.
of all, you said if the mother engages in the act of sex unprotected, then she would be consenting to the risk of pregnancy. So are you saying that if a mother does use protection, engaged in the act of intercourse, and the contraceptives fail, that abortion would be okay?
Well, I guess that is a tough one to think about. I mean, I guess like that is possible. I mean, no. I mean, I'm still gonna say no, and I think it's
so
just
so
I don't
yeah.
know.
So
I mean,
actually, the consent to the
well,
risk
no,
of this
I
doesn't
guess
matter at all,
hey,
right?
bro,
Because they had like a reasonable degree of like justification in the sense that they were not consenting to the risk of pregnancy because of the contraceptives used. Yet you still think it's going to be immoral. Therefore, this entire notion of consent to risk doesn't matter at all, right? And then not to mention, like, again, like on the point of consciousness, why the fuck would one be obligated to give their body to someone else just so that they could obtain consciousness? That makes like no sense at all. Anything else, Luke?
sure. Well, I guess. So, what are your reasons behind like first trimester abortion being like acceptable? Like, do you think that it's like just in certain cases, like such as I mean, personally.
Any case, you ask me for my reasons,
So
I'll give you my reasoning, right? I
okay,
value
so you,
bodily autonomy. I value bodily autonomy so much. I do not think that there's one other case, and if there is, please give it to me, where an individual is going to be forced to provide their body to another individual without their consent. Not one case. And then I also value consciousness and the ability to deploy it. If one is unable to deploy consciousness, then they are not of moral relevance. And the ability to deploy consciousness is gained at 24 weeks when the thymocortical connections occur, right? So you can only assert that this fetus will potentially possess consciousness, right? And then you actually did assert that as to why abortion's wrong. I don't think the potentiality to obtain consciousness is going to be relevant to a degree whatsoever. Like, now answer
yeah.
this. Why is a woman obligated to give her body to someone else without their consent so they could obtain consciousness?
Well, you seem to think that a human life is only associated with consciousness. Is that
Because
right?
that is why human life is of value, of course. I mean, look at other life, right? Like a chicken. Do you eat chicken?
Okay. I mean, yes, but
Right. So now, what if that chicken
what's
could
your point?
now what if
But
that chicken could talk? What if that chicken could talk? What if that chicken could like rationalize the world around it? What if that chicken could think? What if that chicken
well,
like had consciousness to the same degree that we do? Would you still eat
I'll tell
chicken?
you. I'll tell you what, I don't know. Maybe it does do all those things. I'm sure gonna eat the damn thing, bro. I like my chicken, but
So
that's a
so
whole nother
Luke,
topic.
so you're telling me if a chicken like waddled up to you and just started like articulating in clear
But they
English,
don't.
how now, no, listen, this is a hypothetical, it's a question, so engage with it. If a chicken walked up to you and started just talking to you in plain English and like had the thoughts and feelings and desires in the in the same sense that you do, had a full level of consciousness in the same sense that you do, had the ability to rationalize the world around them in the same sense that you do, that you would still be okay with just unaliving it?
Well, if a magical talking chicken came up to me, I would probably have a conversation with it, to be honest with you, and not kill it. But that's also a fairy
David
tale.
Hammons. Would
No,
it be
but that
wrong
is
to kill it? No, no, it's not a fairy
that is
tale.
a
It's a hypothetical that's
fantasy
logically
idea, bro. That
right.
you
Right
got
now,
to
Luke.
hear what you
Now,
just.
now,
That is
engage with the
absolutely
engage
out
now.
of this
Engage with the
world.
fantasy idea. Would it be immoral to unalive it?
Uh, if it was true, yes, but that's not
Right,
gonna happen.
exactly. So, had a mustache. Thank you so much. So, this shows that the biological life bears no importance. It's just the level of
But
consciousness
with
observed.
let
And the
me,
reason, no, stop talking. The reason that I
you're
bring this, stop
you don't
talking.
like
No,
to
no,
let
no,
me
I'm
talk, do
talking.
you?
I'm
Because I
talking. I'm
feel like
talking. I'm
yeah,
talking. No,
because you've
you're
been
just getting
talking for the
emotional.
past like
You're
10
just getting
minutes.
emotional. You're just getting emotional, Luke. Calm down. The reason that I bring this hypothetical up is because you said, well, all I'm doing is talking about consciousness, but it's a human life. Well, the thing is that biological life yields no moral relevance. It is the rational ability of that biological life that yields moral relevance. And this is why I asked you the question about the chicken. You said you eat chicken, but then I asked you if you would eat chicken if the chicken was able to talk and think like we do, and you said no, you wouldn't. That'd be wrong to unalive it, right? Therefore, we can logically conclude from this hypothetical that it is not the life of the chicken that is of moral relevance, it is the level of consciousness observed. And we can relate this to the case of abortion, that it is not the human life that is of moral relevance, it is the level of consciousness that is observed, and prior to 24 weeks, there is no level of consciousness that is observed, therefore abortion is permissible. And now what you're going to say is, well, it's going to in the future, it's going to potentially have consciousness, but we've already went over this. Why the hell would a woman be obligated to give her body to something simply because it's human life? Or why would the mother be morally obligated to give her body to something simply because it could develop consciousness, right? We're talking about consent. Consent is ongoing, and she has full reasonability in withdrawing the use of her body, withdrawing that consent, in this case, because it has no level of consciousness and it cannot deploy consciousness, right? And this is like the fundamental reason why 170 million Americans should have access to this healthcare that is a very much of a necessity.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So you're talking about the chicken thing. So you're saying, if a fantastical chicken came up to me that was talking all that, would I kill it? No. And you're comparing that to, I guess, abortion because a baby in the first trimester doesn't have consciousness or in the way that we experience it whenever we are more mature than that as a baby. So comparing that chicken to a human that can talk like I can, obviously I'm not going to murder the chicken and nobody's going to murder another human, right? Now, thinking back to, let's talk about a chicken that doesn't have what you just explained, like a regular old chicken versus a baby in the first trimester in the womb. So what do you think about the idea that that chicken that we legitimately do eat from Chick-fil-A that can't talk, that chicken has no potential to ever gain a consciousness and a reality like a human will. But that fetus, I know how earlier you were like, oh yeah, well, like you said, give it 9 months. Like we're not talking about the fact that it will have consciousness. It doesn't at that moment. And I get what you're saying there, but that chicken is never going to ever talk. But that baby inherently will if it plays out its biological course. So in my eyes, it already is that person. It just doesn't know that yet, or it hasn't, it hasn't gained its consciousness yet, but it will. So I think it's just like sad to take that away. It's like, I wouldn't want you to have killed me in the womb just because I didn't know I was there. Like I was still there. It just, So
Well, actually, the only reason that you don't want to be unalived in the womb is because you can want. You can possess this like
but every
retrospective ability.
fetus
No, dude, I just let
eventually
you talk.
will
I
have
just
the
let you talk.
ability
I
to
just let you
transfer.
talk. Luke, I just let you talk. Chill the
Yeah,
fuck
wow,
out.
it's such a
No, chill
dang
the fuck out.
privilege.
I just let you talk. I just let you talk. It's my turn to talk now, right? So the only reason that you didn't or you don't want or you didn't wish that you were unalived when you were when you were a fetus is because you are not a fetus any longer. Your thymical connections occurred, and now you are of value, right? But the thing is that we cannot say the same thing about the fetus, and this is logically fallacious, right? The fetus can't want to not be unalived. It quite literally can't because it can't want anything at all. So when you sit here and you tell me, well, it potentially will possess a consciousness, yeah, you're right. It potentially will possess a consciousness, but it doesn't. And consciousness is what deems moral value. And then on the point of, well, why the fuck would this potentiality for consciousness overrule the mother's right to bodily autonomy? Why should this thing that possesses a potentiality for consciousness have a right to use the mother's body without her consent? And why should the state force the mother in providing her resources to that fetus without her consent because of this potentiality for consciousness? There's so many ways to go around this. There's so many ways to think about it. But you're just hung up on this whole potentiality part, and the only reason that you're hung up on that is because you were a fetus and you were conceived and you were given birth to, and you are now a fully functioning 20-something-year-old man with the cognitive abilities that of what I would expect out of a 24-year-old man. And you could
20,
retroactively look back
You
on the
weren't
fact
listening
that at
correctly,
one
but
point
yeah.
you were a fetus, right?
Right.
But
But
like
every
the only
fetus
reason
will
that matters is
eventually
because you're
have
not
that
a fetus
ability.
anymore.
Can you repeat what you just said? Sorry, I missed it.
And the only reason that this matters to you is because you're not a fetus anymore. And then on
Yeah, but
this
all
point
this.
that every fetus will possess consciousness at one point. No, this is fundamentally misled. Do we need to talk about like the 54% of fetuses that are like that do not or what's the
Like the
word?
yeah
What's the word? Why am I
I know
blanking
what
on
you're
the
saying.
word? Yeah,
Uh,
dude, how do
like
we both not
miscarriage,
know this?
like a
There we go.
miscarriage, right?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna talk
yeah,
about like the very statistically important, percentage of fetuses that are
yeah.
miscarriaged. Are we gonna
But
talk about like the fetuses that
that's
are aborted? And
accidental
then
though.
also
That's
to this
accidental.
point that every fetus is going to possess
Whoa.
consciousness? No, the fetuses that are aborted will not possess consciousness, and that's why abortion is okay, out of respect of that fact and out of respect to the mother's bodily autonomy.
Okay. Well, no, it's not. It's okay. The fact that you compared a chicken to a baby is where I lost all understanding here, bro. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, you can't compare a freaking chicken to a
And, and
fetus.
and you should probably go read about the Socratic method. I explain my analogy, and all I hear now is crickets.
Well, I don't have anything to say because first of all, you haven't been letting me talk, and there's like been no conversation other than you shutting me down every 5 seconds. And second, you haven't made a single point that's made me want to actually like. I've told you everything there is to say here. I've told you my view on it. I've told you why I believe it's wrong. Um,
But you
I
didn't tell
know
me anything about what I said. You didn't like object to a single thing that I said. You didn't answer a single question, such as
because
why
you're
the fuck is it?
blabbering.
No. What do we say about
No, no, no,
interrupting,
no, no.
right?
Dude,
So
you
so now
blab.
you're getting emotional. You're just an emotional man, Luke. I need you to
Oh
like put
yeah,
your fragile ego aside and engage in
I
the
am an
debate. You
emotional
know,
wreck right now.
you didn't like respond or refute any statement that I made. Every single time I did make a statement, you just shifted. Such as literally right fucking now, I shut down this entire idea of a potentiality argument. I shut it down like completely and entirely, and I even asked you a question at the end, and your response is, "Oh, you made an analogy to a chicken, and you interrupt me." So, like, do you understand like the issue with this? And you didn't answer like any questions about like why the fuck like if like like the state should force a mother into providing her resources to another that does not possess consciousness against her consent, with consent being very context specific and ongoing. Like you didn't address a single goddamn point. Literally, not one. Seriously, not one.
So, what you're saying about a mother having to carry that baby, and should the states have an influence on that? Look, the reason I'm having a hard time wanting to like respond to your individual questions in a detailed manner because the simplest thing, the only, I mean, I'm about to get off here soon because I gotta go soon anyways. The last thing I'm gonna say is like,
Answer the question, Luke.
okay, so without you saying anything, I was in mid-sentence and you cut me off. That is why this has been a conversation that hasn't gone anywhere, because that's all you've been doing. So what I'm trying to say is
Homie, you stopped talking, and I'm telling you to answer the question.
I was in the process of doing that when you again interrupted. So what? So you're talking. So you're talking about the states having control over whether or not the mother has that right and stuff like that. I mean, the only other thing I'm going to say, my response to that, I guess, and the last point I want to make, is that baby at first trimester is just as much of a life, a potential conscious life, as any other trimester or any other stage in pregnancy. That's my views on it. I know we don't agree, and you. I mean, I can
Sure.
say, you know,
Sure, Luke, sure.
yeah,
Do
I
you mind if
think
I
so.
ask you one last question?
Yeah,
So you
man, for
just
sure.
asserted that this fetus during the first trimester has just like the same potentiality for conscious as a baby during any stage of fetal development. So would you say that like a fetus at like, 10 weeks has the same potentiality for consciousness as a fetus at 30 weeks?
Um, not in that given time period.
No, because at that point, the fetus actually has consciousness because the thymocortical connections
Right,
have occurred.
but
It is no longer a matter of potentiality, but a matter of actualization, right? And this is the
yeah,
huge fucking symmetry breaker. Potentiality only like matters in an abstract sense with retrospective thought. You only
yeah.
care about potentiality because at one point you were a fetus with potential consciousness, and your mother consented to providing her bodily resources to you and carried you through term. But if your mother did not consent to that, this would be acceptable under the concept of what consent is, and under the concept of the fact that you were not consciousness. You did not have the desire to live. You only have the desire to live now because you are conscious. Right? I mean, like, look, I could explain this to you like absolutely all fucking day long, but at the end of the day, you're just gonna be stuck on the matter of potentiality. Potentiality doesn't fucking exist. This is
It
only
does
a matter
though.
of abstract thought. No, it's seriously only a matter of abstract thought. What I care about is actualization. When this is actualized, when the ability to deploy consciousness is actualized with the thymocortical connections, this is when we deem moral relevance. I appreciate you for those hand hearts. And I find this to be just like so intuitive and play hand in hand with the fact that A, the mother has bodily autonomy, and most importantly, the mother has actualized consciousness in of herself. The mother has actual desires to no longer sustain this fetus's life, and we should value those actual desires of the mother compared to the figurative, abstract potential desires of the future fetus. You haven't proved how like being a life gives it entitlement to someone else's body at her risk, burden, cost, trauma, pain, and suffering, right? You just are simply asserting that it is alive and
I mean, I don't
possesses this
really like.
potentiality.
I don't really see a need to prove it. I mean, it's obvious. Like when I mean, I'm sure you've like heard how they do those abortions. They like, they tear the baby out piece by piece. It's like you take out an arm or you take out a leg. It's like that's part of that baby, and that baby is a human life, and that's what it comes down to, in my opinion. So I
So what it
understand
comes
like
down to is an appeal to aesthetics,
potentiality
where
that
you're
baby doesn't
saying,
have the ability
yeah,
for
no,
consciousness at that time.
so
But
now
give it.
what it falls down
I
to
know
is
you
an appeal
keep
to
shutting down the
aesthetics.
idea that I keep saying give it some time, right?
So no,
But
Luke, all that you're
I'm still gonna
saying,
stick to
no,
that. Like,
all that you're saying, no, like you quite
yeah,
literally said, what it comes down to is an appeal to aesthetics, right? So this is again another logical fallacy. Why? I'll show you why. Well, what if the aesthetics of abortion were really like pleasing? What if abortion was just beautiful as hell? What if it was just like this eudaimonious experience for the mother and this aborted fetus came out looking like a Pablo Picasso painting? Would abortion still be wrong, Luke?
you just you just turned the idea of abortion and flipped it and said, "What if it was beautiful?" That's like saying, "What if hell was beautiful?" Like that is invalid, and I don't know how to respond to that.
Exactly.
That doesn't make
No,
any
the
sense. That
response
makes
is that
absolutely no sense.
abortion would still be wrong under your worldview. Therefore, when you said
Exactly.
what it came down to is how gruesome it is, and then how
But we're
gruesome
talking
it
about
is doesn't matter at
well,
all,
yeah,
then the
but
thing
that's the
is
reality.
that it
We're not
came down
talking
to
about
nothing.
your
No, no,
false
no, no,
reality.
no, Luke, Luke, Luke. Here's the reality. Here's the reality, is that even if this fetus wasn't ripped apart arm by arm, leg by leg, and like 3% of abortions that are not done via the pill, you would still think that it is wrong. And also, what you're describing isn't fucking done in the first trimester. The abortions in which you're describing are not done in the first trimester because this is a fetus from the first trimester, and this fetus does not have arms, this fetus does not have legs, this fetus is a clump of cells. So when you say it comes down to ripping the arms off it, this thing doesn't have arms.
Oh.
Like, I don't know how to explain to you. Like, all that you're saying is that you're just it's gruesome, therefore it's wrong. But even if it wasn't gruesome, it would still be wrong. Therefore, how gruesome it is doesn't matter at all.
All right. Well, you taught me something there. Okay. I mean, I guess I should have done my prior research before I said something about that, because yeah, I was wrong about that. I will admit. But
Anything else,
still
Luke?
doesn't make it beautiful or amazing.
No, it doesn't.
No,
No,
I
let me
don't
get
think
this.
so.
I'll get this straight. Abortion is not beautiful at all. Abortion is a last fucking resort for these women that do not want to go through the trauma, the pain, the burden, or the tax of carrying a child and giving birth and having a financial burden for the rest of their life, having this burden of having a child for the rest of their life. Abortion exists as a final result for individuals who want to make a responsible decision that will dictate the rest of their years on planet Earth. Like, we understand that, right? I'm not sitting here saying abortion is great. I'm sitting here saying that abortion is morally permissible and access to it should be had by all women within the United States of America, because it's going to be a necessity for some that do not want to have a child, and because the fetus does not have the ability to deploy consciousness, and that mother has the ability to withdraw her consent to providing her bodily resources to that fetus whenever she wants, out of respect for the fact that it's not viable and out of respect for the fact that it can't deploy consciousness.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. Good luck with everything.
Have a good one, Luke. Yo, guys, I'm enjoying this new topic. Yo, appreciate that crown. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all y'all. Yo, guys, I'm actually really enjoying this topic. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Thank you so much for that crown high. If you guys are enjoying this, if you guys are enjoying the debates, make sure to tippity tap away in that phone screen, y'all. Let's get up to 500,000 likes, baby. Let's fucking go. And Amy, thank you so much for the $20 Venmo. Let's get a W, Amy, going in chat right now. We're gonna go ahead and get our next guest up in here. Make sure to share the live to a couple friends, folks. Share the fucking live, baby. Let's go ahead and see what the next person has to say. Let's go ahead and get Carly up here. W fucking Amy. What's going on, man? Do you think that abortion's... Sorry, fucking... Alrighty, moving on. Sorry about that, folks. That kind of scared me. The feedback kind of just took me away. Let's go ahead and get our next guest up in here. Let's see what's Megan has to say. Megan was in the guest request earlier, but I didn't get her to connect. What's up, Megan? Do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I don't actually. I think it is 1,000% a woman's right.
Sweet, Megan. Unfortunately, I'm only talking opposition, but I do appreciate you for coming up here. Make sure if we are in those guest requests that you do think it's wrong. We're just looking for some debates, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get our next guest, Bonnie, up here, but W Megan in the chat. W Megan and W Amy. What's up, Bonnie? How old are you?
I'm 18.
What year were you born in?
2005.
You said that with a question mark. I think I'm going to move on to the next guest. She said that with a question mark, chat, like unironically. 2005? I just had a bad feeling about that one. Our next guest is loading in here. I had a bad feeling about that one. I'm not going to lie. Okay, our next Jade isn't connecting. All right, let's go ahead and let's see what Holly May has to say. Next guest is loading up in here, chat. What's up, Holly May? How old are you?
I am 38.
Okay, the stuttering already. I cannot hear you.
Okay, I don't even know how I got in this. I didn't even try to get in it, but okay.
Do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I do.
Do you want to debate about it?
We can, yeah. I actually kind of had an abortion at
Very nice, Holly.
I was about 3 months.
That's very thrilling, Holly. That's very thrilling. So why do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I think it's because it's like a living human, a baby, a fetus. It develops, fingers, hands, legs, feet
Okay,
by
so
the end
it's
of
a
the 3 months.
all right. And then why does the mother have an obligation to sustain her bodily resources to this living human without her consent?
I feel like it's her baby. It's inside of her. It's in your stomach. I mean,
Right.
why would
Like,
you even say, like, why does it have to be about obligation to begin with?
well, like the obligation to provide her bodily resources to it is the result of pro-life legislation. And you're very correct about it being in her stomach, her baby, and what would follow from this is her bodily autonomy. She has the right to stop sustaining the life of this by simply stopping the providence of her bodily resources, right? Now you're saying that it's wrong to do it because it's a human life and it's alive. Do you think it's wrong to pull the plug on a brain dead patient?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I feel like it would be wrong, but that's just me.
So you're effectively disagreeing with like the ethical committees of every hospital ever. You're disagreeing with like every philosopher with an emphasis on ethics ever. You're disagreeing with common sense. You're disagreeing with common practice. You're disagreeing with every medical professional when you say it's going to be like immoral to pull the plug on a brain dead individual. But yeah, anyways, do you think that let's imagine this, right? So
Okay.
if my body was like like teleported into a computer, like my consciousness was, like we're in a Black Mirror episode right now. Thank you so much for that Knight's helmet. And like I existed just in like a virtual realm, and my consciousness was uploaded. I had like the same thoughts, feelings, and desires as I do now. It's just all virtual. Would it be immoral for a hacker to like go in there and like end my virtual consciousness?
You're saying if it was uploaded into a computer?
Yep.
Okay. So we're talking about a computer.
Talking about my consciousness in the same way that I observe it to be right now. I have the same thoughts, feelings, and desires I do. I'm just uploaded into a computer, like AI. It's like think of like a Black Mirror episode. Would it be immoral for a hacker to end my virtual life?
I would say no because, like, I'm thinking of it as a computer right now. Am I thinking of it as? Am I not on the right page here? I don't know.
Okay, so you are quite literally saying that if like my mind just like instead of being fired off of neurons, it was fired off of a computer chip. It operated in the same fashion it does now. I have the same thoughts, feelings, and experiences I do now. That someone could just like in that just because.
No, I don't think that's right. Not to
Right.
just end
So
it just
that's
because.
immoral. Right. So that's immoral. Right. So
Right.
like what this example goes to show is that like consciousness is going to be of moral relevance, not like biological life. Right. So you just said it's immoral for someone to end the life of like a virtual consciousness. But like a virtual consciousness does not possess fingers or toes. A virtual consciousness does not possess any form of biological life, especially human biological life. And that's like the reason that I bring this up is because you said that abortion's wrong because it's a human life and ending human life is bad. But what I truly feel like when you're saying that is it's in the life of a conscious individual, right? And like I'm inferring this based off upon your like response to my question about the virtual AI consciousness, right? But like, however, the thing is that like this fetus does not possess consciousness. It does not possess the ability to deploy consciousness. Therefore, following under the same logic, it should not be immoral to get an abortion, right?
I don't know. I feel like even though a fetus does not have consciousness, I feel like it's still wrong. Like the
Why?
baby is growing inside of your body,
It is growing, so
and
why is it
you're
still
going
wrong?
in there and ending that life. You're ending your own child's life. And for what reason?
Yeah, there's going to be
Like
like
the
plenty of
mother and the
reasons, right? So why is that action wrong?
like I'm probably not going to be able to debate this because I feel like a lot of
Okay, well, I
people who
appreciate
have
you for
had
coming up. If you can't debate it, I'm going to go to move on to the next guest. I appreciate you so much for those roses, Angel. We're gonna go to move on to the next guest here. If you guys are enjoying the debates, make sure to tippity tap away in that phone screen. Let's go ahead and hit 500,000 likes, y'all. 500,000 likes, guys, and also share the live with a couple of friends while you're at it. Let's go ahead and see what our next guest has to say. Let's go ahead and get JJ up in here. Thank you so much for that rose, Kirsten. I really appreciate you. Our next guest is loading in, guys. Our next guest is loading in. Just give it a second. What's up, JJ? How old are you? Thank you for that cap.
Oh shit, I don't even. Yeah, I got a question for you, yeah.
How old are
Wait,
you?
are you the one trying to like? Wait, hold on, I got a thing. My bad. Yo, is you the one trying to like think that abortion is wrong, or are you trying to have people come on here who think abortion's not like they think it's wrong and you think it's right? I'm
Abortion's
lost.
fine. But if you're lost on the purpose of this debate, I don't really know if I
No, no,
want
no.
to
I just want
debate
to say one thing real quick. It's personal choice. If you want to have an abortion, you can have an abortion. If you're a 14-year-old fucking girl and you get pregnant, you want
JJ.
that 14-year-old to fuck her life up and go have a
JJ.
baby. I don't
Yo,
care.
W fucking
All of
J.
y'all,
I
all of
appreciate you for
y'all
coming
can.
up. I appreciate you for coming up. Yo, W fucking JJ. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next guest. Yo, I did not expect that at all out of him. I did not expect that at all out of him, bro. W fucking JJ. Yo, that's crazy, man. I didn't expect that. I'm gonna be so real. Let's go ahead and get our next guest up in here. Let's go ahead and talk to Michael. I didn't expect that. Holy shit. W fucking JJ's in the chat for real. What's up, Michael? How do you?
How old am I? I have
Ye-
not been asked that in a while. I'm 57.
All right, Mister 57-year-old man. Why do you think abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I've been listening to you talk for the last 5 or so minutes, 10 minutes. And it brought to mind the saying, I'll remember who said it here in a second, but it was our technology has surpassed our humanity. And all of your technical definitions about this and that and the consciousness and the clump of cells and blah, 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 just reminded me that, if you want to segregate it to a certain time when it doesn't have the consciousness as you assign it, and then a few days later it does, I'll give you an example. When I cut the umbilical cord to my daughter in 1986, and now she's 32, and I held her 5 minutes after she was born, that was the same child 6 months prior to her being born, 7 months, 8 months. That DNA was written to have those blue eyes and that blonde hair. So it's very hard for people like me to listen to you speak about technology and the brain waves and consciousness when you've held a baby 5 minutes after it was born. And you've not experienced that.
Right. So it is not the same thing, right? So I mean, if we want to be like very like specific about it, it's not the same thing at all, right? Because it's the thymocortical connections that allow for the emergence of the consciousness, right? And if those thymocortical connections have not occurred, then it isn't conscious. I mean, it's a very like clear like non-arbitrary line drawn at all. But not to mention that like the difference between you and your daughter and why abortion is not immoral and like should be legal has to do with the fact that your like wife consented to that pregnancy. Your wife consented to bearing who is now your daughter, right? And like consent is very important in this conversation. It is very, very, very important in this conversation. If your wife had not consented to sustaining this life of another, well, that life of another does not have any right to her body, right? So like abortion would have been permissible out of the pure statement that consent is necessary, right?
Well, you started off that after I finished speaking, going into exactly what I was speaking about as our technology has surpassed our humanity. And then you went into about life is consent. Life is a miracle. Life is a gift. Life is a blessing. And you boil it down to a consent? Come on, man.
So life is
You're
beautiful.
acting
Life is a
very
gift.
young
Life is a
right now,
blessing.
and
If it no 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 listen, Michael. Life is beautiful. Life is a gift. Life is a blessing. If the sustenance for this life is being provided for in a consentful nature, right? And like this is like so important. Like why should like like one person have a right to someone else's body without their consent? Can you name like one other case where like this is going to be? Thank you so much for the galaxy. Like the logical conclusion. And then also, what does this have to do with technology? Abortion has been around since like the beginning of like recorded human history. And not to mention that your statement that technology has transcended humanity. No, technology has built humanity. Like where do you think like we were at like 10,000 years ago with barbarians and crusades running around mass unaliving a bunch of people because of differences of opinions? Or like us prescribing like certain individuals with different color of skins as inferior to other individuals, or us like
now we're
holding
so
superiority
enlightened.
complexes off of very abstract and unimportant traits such as like our phenotypical race. Like no, technology and like a greater understanding of the external world around us is going to be extremely important, right? And then also, not to mention that your idea that you hold is not a new one at all. This has nothing to do with like advantages of like like of the new millennium, because like historically consent of women has always been poorly respected for all of time. So you coming up here right now and
No,
telling
no,
me that
no,
you
no,
don't
no.
respect the
Look,
consent of that woman to provide and to
no.
sustain that
Now see,
child, you are just aligning with individuals
okay.
10,000 years ago. Thank you so much
Well,
for that galaxy, Ray. Thank you
you're
so
you're
much.
you're going to monologue and not let me rebut anything you've said, and you've turned it into such of it's such a the argument just doesn't hold, man. It doesn't. When you boil
Which
life
part?
down,
Thank you for the cowboy hat.
when you boil life down, you and I talking to just a simple choice, you just cheapen the whole human
Oh
experience.
wait, no, you and me talking right now. I'm gonna boil that down to consciousness. I'm gonna boil that down to a higher level of rationale. I'm gonna boil that down to the fact where we are such intelligent beings that we are able to converse in this manner, right? And this is none of
Okay,
these traits are observed within the
but but
fetus whatsoever, right? But now
but
look, listen, listen,
how
now
is that
listen. I need an
process?
answer to my question. I need an answer to my question. I need an answer to my question. Why should a woman be forced to sustain the life of another to provide her bodily resources to another when she does not consent to it?
Because
Should
that's
anyone be forced to it?
that's life.
This doesn't
That's
answer my
life.
question at all.
Well, I don't know how to answer it. It's
I
life.
highly doubt that you value the life. I highly doubt you value
Well,
like our genetic code. But let's go ahead and put that to the test, right? So are you saying if there was like a biologically alive human, but that didn't possess any level of consciousness, they're just like a meat bag, would it be okay to like, stop like
now
putting
see,
food
that's
in its mouth every
we're
day?
not going to go to these hypotheticals. We were
No,
talking
of
about
course we are. No, you
we're
don't
not
want to
going to
go
go
to
to
the hypothetical
hypotheticals.
because you know that the
No,
hypothetical will prove you to be
no,
wrong. No.
and
Now
it's
this
interesting
isn't
that
anything new either. No, Michael, this isn't anything new either. This is the Socratic method developed by one of the most intelligent individuals of all time named Socrates, right? Now listen, we are going to go into the hypotheticals because it's the hypotheticals that will show you to be fallacious. Now answer the question, if there existed a human life that had no level of consciousness whatsoever, would it be like immoral to stop putting food in its mouth every day?
I'm not playing this game with you. I'm not
Because
playing this
you
game with
don't want to play the game with me because you're scared of
you.
losing.
No,
You're scared of
I
acting in a
will not
fallacious
lose.
manner. No.
Have
Because the
you
only
held?
thing
Have
that you
you
can
held?
rely
No,
on,
no, no.
no. The only thing that you can rely on is like this ingrained sense that like that all life is so important and like we value it all and it's so common sense and it makes so much sense. No, not at fucking all. Forcing a woman to bear babies they don't consent to give birth to cheapens life. You're all about life, but that fucking cheapens it. That cheapens the rights, that cheapens the desires, that cheapens the attitudes, the wants, and the needs of the mother. All you are doing is you are cheapening life, right?
I'm
And if
glad
you
I
are
got.
going to come up here and you are
I'm
going to
glad.
cheapen life, then not be able to answer one simple question, then this will show us, the man that you truly are, Michael. So now answer the question. If there existed a human life with no level of consciousness, and this was just a meat bag, would it be immoral to stop putting food in the mouth of this meat bag and letting it die?
Am I allowed to speak now?
You're allowed to answer now.
I'm glad I got you to show your true colors. You're a lightweight.
Yeah, Michael, and how is it? How
lightweight.
did this answer my question? And the self-perceived
I
notion
don't
of me being a
need to answer the
lightweight
question.
has nothing to do with it, right? So now, Michael, now all we see is an emotional man with a fragile ego that doesn't like to be proven wrong. And when he is proven wrong with common sense, facts, and logic, they get all so like dense and emotional and can't answer the simplest of questions. No, like you understand that like this common sense that you're using is not like the fucking like the pinnacle of humanity. It's the downfall of humanity. It's using like these arbitrary claims that have no grounding in fact, reason, or logic and cannot stand up to one simple logical analogy that is the downfall of humanity. Like us progressing and becoming like more evolved and intelligent as a society and
Can I ask
grounding
you a
our
question?
claims off of empirical data,
Can I
evidence, and
ask you one
fact
question?
is going to be what actually makes humanity better. And you seem to be a man that values humanity and values life more than I do, according to yourself. So if you value life so much, progress the evolution of this life by answering the question. Let's see if your values hold up to logic, right? So if there was a meat bag that existed with no consciousness whatsoever, it's biologically alive and it's human, would it be immoral to stop putting food in its mouth? Yes or no?
Have you held a baby 5 minutes after it was born? Have you?
Yes.
Was it your baby?
No. I've answered yours. Now answer my question. This is the last
I'm
time I'm going
not
to
going
ask you.
into
No, stay on topic.
hypothetical.
This is the last time I'm going to answer. You don't want to go into the hypotheticals because you hate being proven wrong. Look, dude, I get it. You're 57 years old.
Be
Typically,
wrong.
the older we get, the more dogmatic we get. The older we get, the less responsive we get to being proven
It's
wrong. So
intelligent.
now, like, you're just appealing to emotion. No, all you're doing is you're appealing to emotion.
How is it
You're trying
emotional?
to no. All you're trying to do is you're trying to get all these men, women, and kids to value the fetus the same that we value you and I,
Liar.
or to associate the emotions felt when holding a baby that has just been delivered to the emotions that you should feel when someone says that they want to get an abortion. And making an argument out of emotions is fucking very fallacious and wrong in the fact that we should not suppress
How
the
is
rights,
holding
the
a baby
dignity, and the
emotional?
health care of 170 million Americans because of your emotional response to holding a baby when it's out of the womb, right? So stop appealing to your emotional responses to holding a baby and appeal to facts, reason, and logic. Thank you for the Knight's Helmet by answering the question, right? Thank you so much for that coral, Ray. I really appreciate it. Now, this is the last time I'm going to answer. This is the last time I'm going to ask you the
No, you know
question.
what?
If you can't
I'm
answer the
listening.
question, I'm going to move on, right? So, would it be immoral
Remember this
to stop
conversation.
putting food in the mouth of this biologically alive human that possess no level of consciousness? Yes or no?
You'll remember this conversation, and
Yeah, no, he just ran away. Sweet. Yeah, no, he just ran away. No, see that's seriously what happens when like you hold individuals to a certain standard of logic and science. Like, yeah, no, he just ran. No, he just ran. Like that's like unfortunately, like this is the response that we observe when we hold a standard of logic and reason. Like seriously, like we should hold this standard, but it scares and it intimidates those that cannot hold themselves to that standard. Right? There exists a certain subpopulation of us as humans that are only able to dictate what is right and wrong or the action they should take today or tomorrow off of their emotional responses. And dictating what is right and wrong or what you should do today or tomorrow off of emotional responses is a very primitive and barbaric way of thinking that we should have left in the past. But unfortunately, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest here. If we're enjoying the debates, make sure to tippity tap away in that phone screen, y'all. We're just about at 500,000 likes. And also hit that follow button if you haven't already. I do debates like these quite literally every single day. Share the live to a couple friends, y'all. Share the live to a couple friends. We're going to go and get our next guest up in here. And it's so funny looking at all the people getting pissed off in the comment section because I hold the individuals to a standard of logic and fact, right? It's so funny. It's just so funny watching everyone cry. But it is these individuals that are crying that show that an impact is being made. Hello, Derek. How old are you?
34.
Okay. Unfortunately, you got a bit of background noise. Is there anything you could do about that?
Probably not. If it's too much, I'll just drop. I apologize.
I know you're all good, man. Don't apologize for it. I appreciate you for coming up and have a good rest of your day. He said he kicked. I kicked. Yeah, no, I didn't kick him. I mean, he was saying his goodbyes as he left, so you would think that with like some standard like deductive thinking, you'd be able to reason that out. Thank you for the hand arts, but no, it makes total sense to me that individuals saying I kicked him in the comments would hold themselves to conspiracy theories with like no logic or fact to back them because individuals hold themselves to conspiracy theories quite a bit, especially those who think that abortion's wrong. What's going on, Trevor? How old are you?
I am 30 years old.
Sweet. Do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
I do.
Sweet. Why?
Because that is a human life.
Right. So do you value human life?
I do value human life.
Right. Would you value me if my consciousness was like teleported into like a computer? Like we're talking about like a Black Mirror episode here. Like I'm just like uploaded onto a computer and I have like the same feelings and thoughts I do now, the same desires I do now, but I just exist digitally. Would it be immoral to in that digital life?
Well, I feel like we'd have to talk about that for about 12 hours to actually get to a point because it's something that doesn't exist. I'm here to
Right. But
talk
if it
about
did, would it
I'm
be
here to
immoral?
talk about abortion,
Right. I
but I
understand
wouldn't
that,
talk about
Trevor. I understand that, Trevor, but this is called the Socratic method.
there's many different qualities that make humans human. Consciousness is not the only one.
Right, right. Like our genetic code or DNA. No, well, actually, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of it, what makes us human is going to be our genome, right? So when we're talking about Homo sapiens sapiens, which is the species we are, this is dictated by our genome. So if I did not possess this genome and my consciousness was uploaded to a computer, would it be immoral to end that digital life?
I have no idea because it, when you say genome, are you talking about human DNA?
Yep. I'm talking about the flesh. I'm talking about the human DNA, because that is what
Human?
human life is. That is what
Yeah,
that
that's
that
right.
is what would dictate
Uploading,
the species of this life.
okay, uploading consciousness is not the same as DNA. So
Exactly. This is why I'm
when we're
asking you this
talking
question.
about human life, I'm talking about DNA, the unique code that makes us all human beings, not just the consciousness that allows you and I to have this conversation right now.
Right. No, I know, Trevor, but this is why I'm asking you the question. So answer the question. If my consciousness was uploaded to a computer, would it be immoral for a hacker to hack in there and end my digital life?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
I have
what
no
do your
idea.
intuitions tell you?
If your consciousness was uploaded into a computer, see, this is why it's challenging to have a debate because what are we really talking about? The
We're
question
talking
that's
about the
over your head
logic.
right now
No,
is
Trevor. What
why
we're
is
talking about
abortion.
is your response to the question that's over my head. Your response to the question that's over my head is that abortion's wrong because you value like unique human DNA. But like I'm willing to bet if like my consciousness was not associated with my DNA, that you would still value it. Am I wrong
Sure,
in
but that's
assuming
a
that?
completely different. But that's a
Sure.
completely
Sweet.
different
Sweet.
conversation.
There we go. There we fucking go. So you just said you would value my consciousness if it was not associated with my DNA. So now let's go
No,
into the
I
second
said
part of
it's
the
a
question to drill this
completely
down.
different conversation to have.
No, you said
It,
sure, but it's a
that's
completely different conversation to have.
That's
So
two different conversations. We can ask one, why is abortion wrong in the first trimester? And then two, would it be wrong if my consciousness was uploaded into a computer and a hacker was able to end that? Those are two completely different conversations, Dean.
right, so we're talking about your reasoning for why you think like an abortion in the first trimester would be wrong, and you said it's like the unique human DNA that you value. You like grant moral credence to unique human
Correct.
DNA. So
Within
like
the
Trevor, I'm
conversation
gonna
of the
explain this
abortion.
to you. I'm gonna explain this to you. I'm gonna give you an education on it, right? So
Please give me some
there's this
education.
philosopher. His name was Socrates, and he developed the Socratic
Okay.
method. And basically, what the Socratic method is like testing the logic of like any like situation given by applying that logic to another situation and seeing if it holds true. So you quite literally said that you value like this human life because of its DNA. But now my question was, if I did not possess this human DNA and my consciousness was digitally uploaded, would you still value it? Yes or no?
But you're taking the core of the subject out and applying it to something different, Dean.
The
It
core, yeah, no,
doesn't add up.
you just perfectly said that. I'm taking the core out of it. I'm taking the core, I'm taking the logic and applying it to something
Yes,
different.
the
Absolutely. No,
foundation of the
absolutely.
conversation.
I'm taking the foundation of the conversation and holding it to be analogous in another situation. All that you are
No, but it's
explaining
not
right
the
now is the
core.
Socratic method. No, Trevor, answer the question.
Dean, hang on.
No,
You
so here's
got
the
two.
thing. Like, here's the thing. Trevor, answer the question. Would you value me if I did not have my unique human DNA?
You know what? I'll play the game, Dean. You're conscious in today, 2023. If somehow they were able to remove your human DNA and upload your consciousness into a computer, I would say, no, no, I don't think, I would not value it the same. No, the answer is no.
All right, sweet. So let's look at what this logically entails.
And well,
So
hang
this
on,
is
but
this
let
is
me
logically going to
explain
entail a
why.
handful
Let
of
me explain why
situations.
really quick. Let me
Okay.
explain why really quick. Because the basis of the conversation is, why is abortion wrong in the first trimester? I said because it's human life, unique DNA that makes us innately human. It's not about consciousness. That's why I'm saying no. If someone wanted to upload my consciousness into a computer, that would be super weird, and I don't want to do that. I'm ready to die if it's my time to go.
Right. But what we're more talking about is if that consciousness would have value. And like here's like the thing. Like here's the reason why I'm doing this. It's because I disagree with the notion of what gives us value is our DNA, right? And I tried to see like if you would agree with me on the case. Well, if like I ported my consciousness to a computer, like we would probably give that consciousness the same rights that we have now. A good example of this is going to be like R2D2 in Star Wars, right? So like they gave like R2D2 in Star Wars, like would it be wrong to just go up and like pull his battery out? Yeah, because that was like an individual with thoughts and experiences, desires and attitudes similar or quite equivocal to that of you or I, right? And like another way that I'd like to go about this as to show why it's the consciousness that's valued, not the genetic code, would just be on the fact of what if something that didn't share our genetic code gained the ability to rationalize the world around them and had the same consciousness as you and I do? I would
But
give
that's
them the
not
same exact
real.
value. No, I know,
Let's
Trevor.
talk about
Trevor,
the real subject.
Trevor. So like I know that it's not real, but the point of the statement is to show that we would still grant that moral credence, even if it did not
Who's
possess our
we?
DNA.
I just
And if
said
we,
no.
yeah, so
You
now,
said
yeah, so
we
now like
as in
another instance, right? So now, Trevor,
we're both.
if
You
right,
said we as if we're both
so
in
can you please
agreement.
not talk
We're
over
not.
me? Can you please not talk over
Dude,
me?
you're
Can you let me
holding
finish,
a monologue here, bro.
Trevor? Can you let me finish? Right? It's not a monologue, right? What it is a debate, and in debate, we both have to let each other talk, and I
I
will allow you the same
completely agree,
respect.
bro.
Right.
You
So
gotta land the
so like
plane, though.
right. So like again, like I'm trying to like refute this notion that value is dictated off of our DNA, and I think that it's dictated off of our consciousness. And I'm going
Why?
to show this to you with one other example. Why? Sweet. So let's imagine an ape. An ape, right? So if this ape that did not share DNA just woke up tomorrow and gained the ability to rationalize the world around us to the same sense that we could dictate and decide between right and wrong, could make choices and had the same desires and attitudes that we had, like would they be granted the same rights that we have?
I don't know,
What do you
but
think?
that's not
How do you
what we're
feel?
talking about,
No,
bro.
Trevor. No, you have to answer this question because this is going to show that moral respect and
No,
value is not
I'm gonna
dictated
say
off of
no.
DNA.
No,
So like you truly think that like if like something that did not have our DNA but did have the same consciousness as us, it would be okay to just unalive them and they wouldn't have any rights?
correct.
Okay. And now this is going to be
Because
refuting
I value
our modern
human life.
understanding of the world. Yeah, so this is
No,
called species
it's not
essentialism.
a modern
No, no, no,
understanding,
no, no, no. Of course it is.
bro.
No, 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 no,
Are
no.
we
Of course it
going?
is. No,
Are you
I
going
will
to let
happily show
me?
this to you. I will
Are
happily
you
show this
going
to you.
to
No, no, no.
let
I will,
me
Trevor,
respond,
Trevor.
bro?
I will happily show this to you because you said no, and I want to show you
You're
what this logically
showing me
entails.
things that
No, no,
aren't
right,
real.
right. No, Trevor, right. You have to be able to engage in intellectual debate to understand the conversation being had.
Yeah.
If you're coming in here with a
Okay.
commonsensical version of the world and not realizing what your statements logically entail, then you're gonna have to engage in the conversation, right? So like what you're saying is species essentialism. You only value humans because they're human and nothing else, right?
Correct.
So like this is gonna dismiss the notion that like when people watch Superman, like Superman movies, and they get really sad when when Superman gets punched or Superman gets hurt. Well, what you're saying is they shouldn't get sad because he's not a human. He doesn't have the same DNA as us. When we think about a movie such as The Planet of the Apes, and like we give moral credence to these apes because they're able to communicate similar to how we do, that you're saying like we actually shouldn't care about them at all, and like because they're not human, right? It's species essentialism.
Are you gonna
But
let me
if
respond
if
now?
you're willing to die on this hill that you really just
Dean,
truly value human DNA, I have a question for you. I have a question for
bro,
you. I have unique.
you gotta
No,
let me respond. You want to talk
I will
about
let you respond.
intellectual
No, that's
debate?
right.
If you want to talk
I
about
will let you
intellectual
respond.
debate,
Right. I'm gonna let you
bro,
respond.
how many
I'm gonna.
questions are you
Right.
gonna? How many
Yeah.
concepts are you gonna bring forth without me
Yeah. I
allowing you
got you,
to
Trevor. I got you.
respond?
I got
Let
you.
me
I got you.
respond really
I got
quick,
you.
and then
I
you
got you.
ask your question. Let me
Yeah.
respond
Go for it.
because
Go for
you're
it.
saying you're putting it on me that I don't care at all. That's not true. I care about animals. I care about other things. Hell, I care about plants. I care about the inanimate objects in my room, my computer. If someone came up and smashed it, I'd be upset. They do still have value, and a lot of them have value that we give them. However, when it comes to human life, there is something unique about human life that
But it's
allows
not the
us to
DNA.
have that value. It
But
is
it's
the
not the
DNA.
DNA.
It is the DNA.
Sweet.
Because
So
if a child is born and it's brain dead, like for example, I grew up with a guy in my high school, and he had a little brother, and he did not move. He did not talk. He simply uttered noises. But did they discard him? No, they took care of him. They loved him. They
he
mourned
uttered
when
noises. He was
he passed.
conscious.
Hang on,
He had consciousness. He was a
hang
human with
on.
consciousness.
He mourned. How do you know?
Yeah, because he had
Prove it.
thymocortical connections. He was able to utter.
Prove it.
Yeah, and he like so if we have like
Prove it.
responses to sure, I'm proving it right now. Yeah, response to external stimuli. He said
Because
he
I tried
utters.
say that word one more time.
Yeah, so he had thymocortical connections,
I
and he
tried to
responded
look
to
that up.
external stimuli.
Literally couldn't find anything about it.
You probably spelled it wrong. Do you want the DOI?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Sweet. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sweet. Let me make sure that this is the one that goes over the thymocortical connections. Yep. This is going to be DOI 10.1016/J.SINY.2014.08.003.
Raj, didn't get any of that, but I'll believe you.
Do you want me to slow down and repeat it again?
Yes.
10.1016/J.SINY.2014.08.003. Sweet.
Got it.
So now my question to you. You have like put like a very huge importance on human DNA, right?
That's
So
correct.
I have unique human DNA.
Yep.
Am I entitled to your kidney if I need it to sustain my life?
If you have a kidney, then it's yours.
No. I have unique human DNA. So I fall
Right.
under this category of who you deem importance to. Am I
Okay. Yep.
entitled to your kidney if I need it to sustain my life?
No, you're not entitled to my kidney because it's mine.
Sweet. Just like the mother's bodily resources are hers, and the fetus is not entitled to them if she withdraws consent. Thank you,
Yeah, but
Trevor.
hang on.
Thank you,
This
Trevor. Thank you,
this
Trevor.
consent.
They
Are you
are
gonna let me
hers.
respond? Are you gonna let me respond, or
Go
do you want to
for it.
gas?
Go for it.
You gonna let me respond?
Go for it.
The woman consented to having a child when she engaged in consensual sex, whether she planned to get pregnant or not. And again, we're talking about the majority of women who get pregnant, not to negate the less than 2% of women who are raped and are victims of incest. Again, my heart goes out to anybody on this live that has known somebody, has gone through something like that, and all the women out there who have ever had to deal with something like that. But when we're talking about more than 98% of women who engage in consensual sex and then get pregnant, they are offering in that moment, if I get pregnant because I'm willing to take the risk, that I may need to give my body resources that it's designed to do when I get pregnant to a new life and bring that life into this world.
Sweet. So consent is going to be very like context specific, and consent is going to be ongoing, right? And this is just going to be like the fundamental like laws of consent, right? So when we are talking about consent to sex, we're talking about only that consent to sex, right? And also you can't consent to pregnancy because pregnancy is a biological process, and you can't consent to those because they just happen, right?
But you
And then
know
also,
that
not to
it's
mention,
going to
I let you
happen.
talk. I let you talk. It's my turn. It's my turn. Thank you for the hand
Go
eyes.
for it.
Then also, consent is going to be ongoing, and consent could be withdrawn at any time. I could give you like so many examples of this, but like I'm not going to. I'm actually just going to play into work. I'm just going to play into it. So like I first wanted to highlight the fact that that's not how consent works, and I feel like I detailed that like quite like clearly to you. But yeah, sure.
did.
So if I hit you with my car and you needed my kidney, and I was the only one that was a match, should the state force me to giving my kidney to you?
No, because I didn't consent to you hitting my car or hitting me with
Nice.
your car.
Nice. Nice. Just like a fetus doesn't consent to being brought into conception.
Okay, so
I'm no,
let's
no,
use that
listen.
same
Nice,
analogy.
nice, nice, nice. W,
Let's use
W.
that same
So no, no,
analogy,
listen. No,
bro.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. I am
Okay,
not done at all. No,
sure.
I knew it was a risk, right? I knew it was a risk.
You
If I
knew
got in my
what was a
car,
risk.
no, no, listen,
What
right?
was
If
a
you
risk?
stop, bro, if you stop interrupting me and let me talk, I'll tell you what's a risk. Right? So I knew when I got into my car, I knew it was a risk of me hitting someone else and causing them harm. Right? So
Bro.
I got into a car and crashed my car into yours, and I put you
Sure.
in a state of dependency for my kidney because you needed one from that risk, and I'm the only match.
Is that a
And you said that
biological
I should
process?
not be able. And you said that I should not be able, or that I wouldn't be forced into giving you my kidney, right? So this is going to be logically analogous, like with your like misconceptions of consent and pregnancy, because you're saying a mother engages in the act of intercourse, she knows the risk of the harm, right? So then if that harm comes to fruition, she has to provide for that harm. In the same way that
What is
I
the
knew the risk
harm?
of driving a car of the harm of me causing a car crash, and if I knew the risks of that, I'd have an obligation to providing you that kidney.
Define harm.
Define harm? Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah, what are
we
you
talk
talking
about
about?
something
So
along the
hang
lines
on.
of like
Okay,
suffering.
I have two things here. So you mentioned before you went into this little analogy here that consenting to sex is a pregnancy is a biological process. You getting into your car, hitting me as I'm crossing the street, that is not a biological process. That does not give you some type of right over my kidney because it's the only match. Say you're driving that same car.
Oh,
Say
you
you're
already messed up the
hang
analogy.
on,
I don't think
hang on.
I don't think you understood the analogy because you're already saying like things that are incorrect about the analogy.
Okay, please
I'll just
correct me.
Yeah, no, I'll correct you, right? So like I'm driving, I
Yeah,
hit you with my car,
correct.
and you are placed into a state of dependency where you need a
Sure.
kidney and I'm the only match.
But that's not how it
Should the
works.
state force me into giving
Are
should the
you an
state
organ
force me
donor?
into giving you your Trevor,
How are
engage
we
with a
connected in
hypothetical.
this situation that makes you the person that I need the kidney from? I would go
Because I'm the only match.
the process would be for me to go into the hospital, wait for somebody to donate their kidney to me.
No, it's implied in the hypothetical that I'm the only match.
Okay. Ever? Like no.
Yep.
Okay. So how does this have anything to do with two human beings, male and female, consenting in sexual uh, coitus or whatever you call it, and then forming a baby, knowing that by doing that thing, and then the sperm going into the vagina, going to fallopian tubes, and entering into an egg, and then creating in an instant an organism, not a clump of cells, an organism that goes through a process where the human DNA is formed in that exact moment of conception, and then the process begins. How does your car analogy have anything to do with the biological process of pregnancy and two people consenting in that?
Yeah, because it's about consenting to an action that yields a risk where the consequence is someone else having rights to your body. You're saying when two like consenting individuals consent to like pregnancy, which yields the risk of
No, they're
like of
consenting to sex. They're
Right.
consenting to
Right, right,
sex.
right. So like I'm gonna spell this out for you, right? So like once again, it has to do with consenting to a risk where the consequence was someone else having a right over your body. So by consenting to sex, you're consenting to the risk of that fetus having a right over your body for those 9 months. Similarly, in the analogy that I'm drawing, you're consenting to driving when the risk would be, like you having the right over my kidney, right? So this is like the analogy being had. This risk of pregnancy is equivalent to the risk of the car accident, and the right over the body in the case of pregnancy would be the mother not being able to get like an abortion and having to sustain that fetus's life with their bodily resources. And then and the analogy in the car crash would be me having to provide to you my kidney. Do you understand that?
But we're not connected in any way. You and I have not consented to anything. I did not consent
Right.
to you hitting me with the car, and you did not consent to me walking in front of your car.
Right.
Now, however, if I said, "Hey, Dean, I'm going to walk into the middle of the
No,
road,"
no,
and then
Trevor,
you
you would
run me
be
over with your
no, no.
car,
You're not helping your
and then
case because you're
and
gonna be like more. You're gonna be like analogous to the fetus. The fetus didn't consent to the fetus didn't consent to getting conceived. The fetus didn't consent to the pregnancy. The fetus didn't consent to like being sustained by the mother's bodily resources. In the same way that you didn't consent to walking in front of the road, you didn't consent to getting hit by my car, and you didn't consent to needing my kidney, right? So
Okay,
you're
sure.
analogous to the
Okay,
fetus in this case. So now when you say that the symmetry breaker is going to be a lack of consent on your end, right? This is going to be analogous to that of the lack of the consent on the fetus's end.
Okay, so let's go back to this analogy since it's so dang important, even though I'm still not really understanding how these two things are connected. Okay, no, you are not obligated to give me your kidney, but these two things don't
Right.
line up, bro.
Right. So what you
Let's
just told me.
let's
No. Here, Trevor.
let's
Trevor.
talk
Here's what you
about
just told me.
actual
Trevor.
pregnancy.
Trevor. Here's what you just told
Everything
me.
goes. Hang on, really quick.
Here's what you
One
just told me.
one
Trevor.
thing,
No.
bro.
Trevor.
Before I
Trevor.
move, I
Trevor.
just don't
Trevor.
want to
Trevor.
do.
Trevor. Here's what you just told me. Here's what you just told me. So you just told me.
Dean, my
Trevor.
God.
You just told me that if I engage in an action that yields a risk of having to sustain another individual's life, I'm not obligated to sustain the other individual's life.
Yes,
Now,
that's because you and I
what's
are
another
not
case?
connected.
Now, one second, Trevor, stop. Now, what's another case where someone would consent to an action that would yield the risk of, like creating
But
a
they know
dependency of
what
another life?
they know what the consequence is, though. They
No,
know
they
what
know
the
they knew of the
consequence
risk
is.
in the same way that I knew the risk of driving a car.
Yes, you could run into anything. You could run into a brick wall. You could run into another human baby that, hey, you to a pregnant would have to go get the abortion. You could run into a number of different things, Dean, but every human being knows, every consenting human being, I won't say every because that's an absolute, but the majority of adults who consent to sexual intercourse know that there is the risk of getting pregnant. Among other things, like transmitting STDs, having incredible, explosive orgasms. These things could be the result
Right.
of having sex.
So
But
every
it's a
consenting
very
individual to
finite.
sex.
Hang on. Let
No,
me
Trevor,
finish.
you're
Let me
losing it
land the
here.
plane, bro. Let me land the plane,
Land that
dude.
plane.
But it's a finite number of outcomes. Whereas when you get into the car, there are almost an infinite amount of outcomes that could happen when you drive your car down the road.
Right, Trevor. Scott, thank you so much for the $10. I do need a graph for this guy. You're absolutely right, Scott. So yeah, every consenting adult knows that pregnancy yields the risk of reproduction, just like every consenting adult who drives knows that driving yields the potential risk of harming another person.
That is the potential risk, correct. But
Just
when
like the
we're
potential
talking,
risk of pregnancy is going, just like the potential risk of sex is going to be pregnancy. Do you see the analogy here?
but they're not connected, bro.
No,
Because
I don't know how,
that would,
what, so, okay, then what's the
dude,
difference?
that would
No,
mean,
so
hang
tell
on,
me,
that
so
would
no,
mean,
tell me, no, seriously, Trevor,
dude,
what I need you to
dude.
outline is the specific symmetry breaker that would make it not analogous, right? So we have two cases, two individuals
One has
consenting
an
to sex.
infinite amount of
Now,
outcomes.
Trevor, listen, Trevor,
I'm
don't
listening.
interrupt me, right?
I'm listening
Two
to you.
consenting individuals that engage in the act of sex know that there is going to be a 5% chance that that woman gets pregnant if they're doing so unprotected. Two consenting individuals know that when they engage in the act of sex, there's a 0.01% chance of the woman getting pregnant if she's on an IUD. Just like any consenting individual that drives knows that there's a certain risk higher than 0.01% that will yield the harm of another individual. These are two
That
actions. No, listen, I seriously do need a graph for this. These are two actions that yield risk of harm and bad outcomes, right? For a mother who does not want a kid, this is going to be pregnancy. And for an individual driving a car, in this case, it's going to be like causing another individual into a state of dependency on their kidney. Like, what is the symmetry breaker between these two ideas? And when you say like one of these like yields so many potential outcome ideas, such as like hitting a car or hitting a tree or hitting a person, well, dude, when we're in the confines of this analogy, we're talking about a person, and like saying that there's so many potential outcomes does not assert that harming another person is not one which is plausibly so. And in the same case of sex, there's so many potential outcomes for sex.
here's how it's
One
not
is going to be
analogous.
don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. One is going to be like it's going to be like pregnancy, of course. remorse. Another one is going to be, just like a feeling of building love or building a relationship between the other individuals. One's going to be pleasure. One's going to be, like acting upon just like sexual desires. One's going to be less. Like there exists like plausible outcomes of both of these cases, but like the morally relevant like outcome that we are comparing is that there exists one risk of sex, which is pregnancy, and one risk of driving a car, which is causing harm onto another individual. And you're saying in the case of the pregnancy that mother has an obligation to provide for that dependency. But in the case of the car crash, this individual would have no obligation to provide for that kidney.
Okay.
This is like, you understand, like this is like logically like fallacious, like this is contradictory.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you how these.
No, like you unironically, like this is a logical contradiction.
Did you not finish?
I mean, like address your logical contradiction.
The contradiction here, because an illogical contradiction, I don't know. Anyway, they're not analogous because the first scenario, you know that if I get pregnant, this thing, for certain, the woman, if I'm the woman, and I'm not, for all the people in the chat, if I'm the woman, I get pregnant, I know that baby is going to be dependent on me. But in your analogy, me driving my car down the road and having whatever possibility that I would hit you, Dean, wherever you are in the world, there's no way for me to know by engaging in the act of getting my car that when I hit you, Dean, with my car...
Bro, this was explained in the confines of the hypothetical. This was included inside of the hypothetical. No, when you engage in a hypothetical, you can't change the rules of the hypothetical, man. You can't change the rules of the hypothetical. The point is that I explained this all to you in the confines of the hypothetical, and you still said no. No. What matters is, like, I explained this to you, and then you still said no. No, exactly, I can. But what matters is your answer to the hypothetical. So you answered in the case of this hypothetical where you knew, like, this risk of this dependency that you wouldn't have to provide for the dependency. And the analogy is in the same way where you knew the risk of dependency in the case of a pregnancy that you'd have to provide for this pregnancy. Listen, I could come at this like all fucking day long with like analogies on this shit.
Bro. You literally
no, Trevor. There's nothing wrong about this because you answered in the confines of the analogy. No, there exists nothing wrong of this because you answered in the confines of the analogy. And your only response and your only rebuttal is to manipulate or change the confines of the analogy. Listen, you fucked up when you said that some individual, if they consented to an action where they knew the risk would be another individual being dependent upon them, they wouldn't have to provide for that dependency. You knew this, and you answered that no, they wouldn't have to provide for that dependency. Like, not to mention that even at the end of the day, even if that dependency does exist and the mother knew about it, well, this fetus is still not of a moral stature because it does not possess what is like morally relevant within humanity, such as any level of consciousness.
Back to the real conversation.
No, we're not going to get back there yet. We're not going to get back there yet. We're not going to. No. We're not going to get back there yet.
In analogies that who knows where these came up, who came up with these, whether it was you or whether it was someone else, and it doesn't make sense to the actual conversation. We're not even talking about abortion at this point.
Bro, just because like you lose and you realize that you're contradicting yourself in the analogy, you can't
losing.
No, just because you're losing and you don't have an answer to your logical contradiction doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense and you go back to the confines.
We've been talking this whole time.
So address your contradiction. So address your contradiction. Trevor, I asked you if an individual like engaged in an action and knew the plausible risk of having another individual dependent upon you, would they be responsible for this dependency? And you answered no.
But it's not the same.
Yeah, what's different?
Because two people, I don't know why I have to keep explaining this to you. When two people consent to having sex, that's what happens. It's not when I get into my car, I know that by driving my car, if I continue to do this time after time after time, that I'll certainly run into Dean and hurt him, and he will be dependent for my kidney. That's not how...
Trevor, right? So here's the thing, though, right? So, no, it doesn't certainly happen in the case of pregnancy. When a woman's on an IUD, it happens 0.01% of the time.
Correct.
Right? Similarly to how this car crash analogy would happen 0.03% of the time, right? So it's actually like more plausible that this would occur under like the confines of the analogy to the car crash, more so than
more plausible for me to run into you, not knowing where you live first of all, and you not knowing if I even have a driver's license or not. Where are you pulling these numbers from, Dean? Because you know
Yeah,
that they
FBI
are
crime statistics. Homie,
absolutely
Trevor, you understand that this was
fabricated,
all
bro.
detailed. You understand that this was quite literally
It's
all
all
detailed in the confines of the analogy. Homie, like, listen, Trevor, I'm trying to
what?
explain this to you as easy as I can. You can't
And
change the
you're not doing a
confines of the
good
analogy.
job
No,
because the
listen. No,
analogy
Trevor, stop
doesn't
being so
have
dense. I
some.
need you to listen. I need you to listen, Trevor. I need you to stop
I'll
being
listen
dense,
to
right?
you.
So,
I can listen to you be
Scott,
wrong this whole
thank you so
time, bro.
much. Thank you so much. No, like Trevor. Here's the thing, though. You can't change the confines of an analogy to make yourself win. No,
Yeah, but you
you
can't
answered under the
make an
confines of the
analogy
analogy. No,
that is
Trevor.
that a
No, no,
person
no, wait.
can't answer
No, but no,
because
no.
they're
Now you're just saying
too.
this because you answered the analogy in a way that did not help you, right? So now I'm gonna ask you like one more time, right?
Oh,
I'm gonna
please
ask you one
ask
more
me
time,
another time,
right? So
please.
you hop in your car, and you know that there's a 0.03% chance
You
that you're
are
gonna like.
out of control.
Now listen, Scott. You hop in your car, and you know that there's a 0.03% chance that you're gonna like cause a car crash and someone is gonna be dependent on you. Is it morally wrong to not provide for their dependency?
I don't even. No, because I don't know you. It's not morally wrong because you and I are not connected way except I have a match for your thing. Having a baby in a uterus is not the same thing. There is a completely different conversation that we would have to have, bro.
Yo, Trevor, no fucking way you just said this. And then, yeah, no, a woman doesn't know the fetus at the moment of intercourse ever, either. The fetus doesn't even
Define
exist.
knowing. It's inside of her body.
No, at the moment of intercourse, which is the morally relevant situation being like observed, no, it's not inside her
Oh,
body.
I'm talking about the moment of conception, Dean.
Yeah, Trevor, yeah, she doesn't know like that embryo either.
But you're taking two adults, two people who have already lived. I mean, not because of conception.
Yo, I'm so sorry. I don't know how you're not getting this. You quite literally just said if you like take an action that involves a risk of causing another person into a state of dependency, that you don't have to provide for that dependency if you don't know them, correct?
But it's not the same as having a baby.
Right. No. So let's think of another
It's
situation.
not the same,
No,
Dean.
Trevor. Yeah, let's think of
Do you
another
have
situation.
another analogy? I
No.
heard some of the
There's
other
nothing
ones.
not analogous about it. There's literally nothing not analogous. There's nothing not analogous about it. You have not been able to articulate a symmetry breaker between the two ideals, and the only one that you have been able to articulate is them like not knowing that the person that they cause into a state of dependency. So I just want to show you how like absurd this is, right? So
You
let's imagine
are
this. No, let's imagine
absurd.
this, Trevor. Let's imagine this. So I live in the
Bro.
middle of like the Amazon rainforest, and I run a food bank, and I have a whole village of people completely dependent upon my food bank for food. So what you're saying is they are in a state of dependency on my food. If I don't know them, would it be okay for me to stop giving them food and they just all
I
die?
don't know. Can we talk about abortion, bro? Can we
Answer.
talk
Hey,
about
no,
abortion?
answer. No, answer.
Can we talk about
No,
abortion?
answer.
That would be sick.
Answer, bro. No, you're just scared of the
I'm
analogies.
not scared, Dean. I clicked the join button. I'm not scared.
No,
I
no,
wanna talk about-
you're terrified because you won't answer. No, you quite literally just said that you don't have, if you cause someone else into a state of dependency, you don't have to provide for that if you don't know them. This is unironically what you just said. This is super unironically what you just said. So yeah,
I
if
don't
I'm
know what's
walking,
super unironically.
so like if I'm walking down the street and like I cause someone to be bleeding on the ground, like I accidentally trip them and they just hit their head and like they're just like bleeding out on
Okay.
the ground. Would that
Dean,
be
let me
like
ask-
that?
can I
Would
ask
it be
you a
immoral
question
for me to like to not help them or do anything about that because I didn't know
Sure.
them? Or let's think about like a murderer that causes someone into a state of dependency on like life support in the hospital. So it's okay to
Thank you,
murder people
Bumblebee.
if you don't know them. Like that's unironically what you're asserting. That's
man.
unironically what you're asserting. No, you
Dean,
said
can
that
I
the
ask you a
symmetry breaker is
question, bro?
knowing them.
Can I ask you a question, my dude? That question would be, is it wrong for a woman to get an abortion? Let's start there.
Bro, it's because you're scared of
That
the
would be-
analogies. No.
I-
Let's start with an analogy, homie. Let's start with an analogy. No, because here's the thing, Trevor. I just outlined like so many other cases where you take an action that involves a risk that will create a dependency, such as the car crash, and you acknowledge the risk that if you do crash your car into someone else, they would be dependent on you for a kidney, and you said you would not have to provide that kidney to them.
That's right.
So then tell me why, when a mother or when a woman engages in intercourse with someone else and she knows that this yields the risk of producing like the dependency on a fetus on her, why is she required to provide for that dependency?
Because that's murder.
Oh yeah, and if you don't provide the kidney, that person's going to die too. That's also murder.
That's
Next.
not murder. How is that murder? I'm making a choice. I'm saying, no, I don't want to do that because I don't know this person.
Right.
I
So
don't-
just like
I
when a
don't
mother
know
makes
if-
the choice to just like when the mother makes a choice to take like a plan B,
Yeah, but
or
that's
like an
already
abortion
an
pill.
adult- that's-
No,
that's
she
an
doesn't know
adult-
him either,
that is-
homie. She doesn't know him either. She doesn't know him either. Just like
Okay,
when the
hang on.
mother makes the choice to take a plan B or an abortion pill, and all that does is it stops the providence of her bodily resources to them. It's just withholding components of her body to sustain another person's life. That's murder. Well, if that was murder, then you're withholding your kidney to sustain the individual's life who you hit.
But who's saying that I have to give them my kidney?
Just like who's saying that mother has to give that fetus her bodily components?
Moral values.
Yeah, and why would those moral values not also dictate that same outcome in the analogy about the kidney?
Because that is an adult who made a choice, who walked across the street, and I hit them somehow, some way within this analogy. I know, because you said in the first one, well, the woman doesn't know the kid. The woman doesn't know her fetus. But I somehow in this analogy know that, Dean, you're going to be the person that I hit with my car, and then you're going to be dependent on me. How the hell does that match up?
No. So what mashes up is the fact that the mother, this woman, is also a consenting adult, right? Yeah, this mother is a
Correct.
consenting adult that engages in the act of intercourse that yields the outcome of a dependent life on her, and you're saying she has to provide for that. Just like
That is
the
right.
individual driving the car engages in the act of driving a car and knows the risk if they hit someone, they're going to be dependent on them for
But
a
it's
kidney.
not in
And you're saying
that analogy. It's not someone. In the analogy, it's you.
What?
This whole scenario, this whole analogy is built upon when I get into my car, I know that there's a 0.03% chance that I hit you with my car.
Oh, so now you're depersonalizing all the women in America. Got it.
No, I don't understand how.
No. Here's the thing. No, here's the thing. This is
What are you
beautiful.
talking-
No.
No,
This
let
is
me
beautiful.
finish.
No, Trevor. This is so
Let me
beautiful.
finish because
No.
you
This
haven't-
is so. No, you just said in that analogy, that's not someone. It's you, and that's why you don't have to provide your bodily resources to someone else. Well, think about all the yous out there of mothers who are being forced into providing their bodily resources to the fetus. They are all used, just like you wouldn't want to be forced into providing your bodily resources to someone that you hit, knowing the risk of hitting them and having to provide your kidney to them. Just like all the use of the mothers out there who engage in the act of intercourse, knowing the risk of causing a dependency on a fetus on them, don't want to provide for that dependency. What is the
But that's
symmetry
not what
breaker
I'm
between these
saying.
two ideas?
But that's not what I'm saying. You went on that whole 30-second thing, and you did not have accurately what I was saying.
If you're saying something different, then you're not accurately like repeating the analogy.
Dean, in your analogy, bro, when two people have sex, they are forming a life. There's billions and billions of sperm that go into the thing. Who knows who it's going to be? But when I get into the car, I know based on your
Joe, thank you for the
scenario,
subscription.
based on your scenario, that there's a 0.03% chance
Wait,
that I
no.
hit you.
No, when two people engage in sex, they don't know that they're forming a life. Just like when you get in your car, you don't know that you're going to hit
But there
someone.
is the chance that it will be a life.
And there is a chance that you're going to hit someone.
That is one of the finite outcomes that will come from it, besides orgasms, STDs, a good time, whatever you want to call it.
And that is one of the finite outcomes that will come from driving, and that is a risk that you have that is a risk that you have consented to, just as that's a risk that you have consented to in the act of in the act of pregnancy, right?
Okay, but there's no rules in place because you didn't outline this within the confines of the analogy. There's no rules in place morally or from a judicial standpoint that I would need to give you my kidney. That is just a risk that I'm taking.
Right. So are you saying that like if there didn't exist any legislation that was like pro-life, that a mother would like be morally fine in getting an abortion?
I think whether there's laws in place or not, I think that there is a moral standing that outlines and is built into the fabric of our universe. And by killing anyone, whether they are microscopic or they are 120 years old, there is something wrong with killing that thing. Someone who is 120 years old.
Oh, oh, Trevor. All that you're saying is that one's wrong and one isn't wrong, but you can't articulate why. According to whom is there
No, I
something
can't
wrong with not
articulate why.
providing for that dependency?
I did
According to whom,
articulate why already.
according to whom, is there something wrong with not providing that dependency? And what is the justification for it being wrong?
I
Not to
just
mention that
told
you
you
just called a fetus a thing, right?
it is a thing. Persons, places, and things, nouns, look them up.
Yeah,
The
would you refer to
thing
me
that
as a thing?
you are a person,
Right, so you don't think a
place,
fetus is a person. Got
or
it.
thing. It's a human being. Yes, absolutely, Dean. Don't try to play on
So
my
no, no.
words.
So like, I just want to get
You,
this straight, Trevor.
no,
So
this
at
is
this
what you
point, no,
do,
no,
man.
I'm gonna get
This
this
is what
straight. I'm gonna get this straight, Trevor. I'm gonna get this so straight. So at this point, you have not outlined any symmetry breaker between the two analogies. You've not told me what is different between the two analogies. And like your final fucking leg is that just something about the universe says that one's wrong and one isn't wrong. I want you to reflect on that, Trevor. They're logically analogous. They yield the same conclusion, and they are
you
built
well,
off the same premissi.
you muted me.
I did, because I want you to reflect on that statement.
Which one was that? Go ahead and repeat that for me.
Right. So I gave you an analogy
Uh-huh.
of another situation where an individual is like consenting to an action that yields a risk of causing another person into a state of dependency, and you said that they would not have to provide for that dependency. I asked you for
Correct.
the logical symmetry breakers. You couldn't provide one.
I did. I said because they're not morally or judicially connected. There's no rule in place. There's no
All right.
law in place, whether moral or judicial, that says
Mitch, thank you for this. Thank you for the subscription.
when I hit you with my car
Okay.
that I need to give you my
Yeah.
kidney.
So
However, hang
what
on,
moral
let me
laws in
finish.
place in the
Let me
case of the
finish.
pregnancy?
Dude,
What moral
let me
laws in case
finish.
of the pregnancy? No, what moral
Let
laws
me
in the case
finish,
of the
bro.
pregnancy? No, no, no. Tell me what moral laws in place of the pregnancy? What if an individual doesn't uphold to this moral law? Where did
That's
this moral law
murder.
come from?
That's
Wait, what is
murder.
this? No, what is this moral law?
Hang on. One is murder. One is there's no obligation. That's the difference.
Wait,
There's
no, no, they're
no.
gonna die. No, that's murder. You're not providing for the dependency
How
in the
is it
same way
murder?
that. Yeah, yeah, because they're gonna die if you don't give them the
But you
kidney.
didn't say I
In the same way
intentionally
that
killed them.
no, in the same way
Because
that a mother
it
isn't
was
intentionally killing that fetus. She's just simply stopping the providence of her bodily resources. In the same way that you are stopping the providence of your bodily resources to the individual in which you hit. If you don't give them the kidney, you die. If you don't give the fetus the bodily resources, they die.
But
Logically
how is it
analogous.
murder? But how is it murder if I hit you with my car?
Yeah, so if you hit someone with your car, knowing that if you do hit someone with your car, knowing that's a risk, knowing that they'll be dependent upon you, then you also would know that they would die if you didn't give them the kidney and you decided not to give them the kidney, right?
How would I know?
How would I?
Because
Well, it's
it's
assumed
built
that you
into
know.
built
Homie,
into the
homie, under the
confines.
confines of under the confines of the analogy, you knew, and you still said that that's not wrong. So you can't question
Okay.
how you know because you know.
This analogy is not good.
No,
I
you only
sus-
think it's
I
not good because it doesn't agree with you.
no.
If
I
you think it's not good,
recommend.
you have to be able. No, if you think it's not good, this means that you think it's not like analogous. If you don't think it's analogous, you have to outline the symmetry breaker.
Here's the thing, man. If it was analogous, it would be easy for everyone to understand. Not only have I had a hard time understanding the difference between these two things, but a lot of people in your chat are also saying this has no freaking, they can't figure it out.
So
So
then
if
tell
it's
me what's
analogous,
different. So then tell me what's different. Tell me the
one
logical
is
symmetry
murder
breaker.
and one is, that's it. One is murder and one isn't.
Okay, so if one is murder because they stop providing their bodily resources in the case of pregnancy, well, it's also going to be murder in the case of the kidney because all that you did to like have
No,
them die
hang
was
on,
the
man.
stopping of
It's not
providing them
that they
bodily
choose.
resources.
Hang on, man.
You know, you're just being
When
willfully obtuse. No, you're
okay,
unironically
sure.
just being like
Let
willfully
me
obtuse
finish,
right now.
dude. Let me finish. So, God bless. If you didn't talk so much, I'd be able to form a sentence. Um, so in the within the
Like you're
context
unironically
of
just being like
hang on,
willfully obtuse.
stop. In within the confines or the context of stopping to provide bodily resources, I'm saying no. I'm not going to remove my kidney from my body and give it to you so you can live. And then in the second point, When it comes to an actual pregnancy, which should be the basis of what we're talking about, you are either dissolving the fetus with some type of pill method, or you're ripping it out.
No, the
That's
pill
not
doesn't
that. Hang
dissolve
on,
it.
let me
The pill
finish.
doesn't. No, you're already wrong. This
That's
is
not
already
choosing to stop.
misinformation.
Because a woman can't stop her bodily function. You're saying we'll just
Yes,
chooses
yes,
not
she
to
can.
use her
Yes, she
bodily
can. The pill
resource.
can. The pill can.
The pill kills the fetus.
No, the pill stops the bodily resources being provided from the mother, which kills the fetus, in the same way that you're not providing your bodily resources to the person that needs the kidney, therefore it
Okay.
kills the person.
Well, maybe I have that wrong. I would need to look that up.
So again, this is something else that is not a logical symmetry breaker. And can you name the logical symmetry breaker?
Yes, I continue to do it. It's one is murder and one isn't.
Define murder.
Murder is intentionally killing a human being.
Right, and you're intentionally killing this human being by not giving them that kidney when you know that they need your kidney, when you did know that if you did cause that car crash that they would need your kidney.
Hang on, really quick. That's not the definition of murder.
All right. Look, listen, I've been trying to explain this to you for like the last fucking
No, dude, you're
15
good. You
minutes.
took an L.
No, Trevor. I'm gonna have Breeza try to explain it to you because this is her analogy. So can you try to explain this to him because I don't think he's getting it.
Good.
Well, actually, I
Breeza,
wanted to give
what's
you,
up?
if that's okay, I want to give you, see if Trevor, if it's okay if I give you a second analogy real quick and just see what you think of this one.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so so two people decide to have a baby, right? Husband and wife. The husband knows that he carries a risk of passing on this gene he has for defective kidneys. It's about a 5% chance he has of, and he knows that ahead of time, right? So then at age 6, this child develops a chronic kidney condition. Should the father's the only one who's a match, and the child's going to die without a kidney. Should the law force the father to give a kidney to his child?
So let me just make sure that I have the confines of the analogy correct. There is you said that there's a percentage. I'm sorry. There's a percentage that
there's
he's
a
going to give
percentage
this.
risk that he can pass on this gene that he carries. It's about a 5% risk that he'll pass on that gene to his child.
And is it a 100% guarantee that the child is going to die?
We'll say like 99%.
So let's say it's not. Let's say it's not.
We'll say 99%.
You weren't certain at first. So
Yeah, so I'm going to say 99%.
hang on. I'm just trying to make sure that I have. You're gonna say 99%, because there's that 1% chance. I would say no. They can't force him to give the kidney to the child.
Okay, what if it's 100% chance that the child is going to die
Okay,
without
let's
a kidney?
change the confines of the
No, I'm
analogy.
just curious.
No, let's change it to
you
make
know
sure
what?
that it
Actually,
fits.
to make it analogous to pregnancy, we'll make it 100% because we know the fetus without the use of the mother's body is going to die, right? 100%.
thought
So
it was
let's
the
make it
father's body.
analogous to pregnancy. So we'll say it's 100% chance of dying without a kidney transplant.
And the father's the only match, you say?
Yeah, and the only one available to give a kidney because there's millions of people waiting for kidneys. People die every day on transplant waiting lists, waiting for kidneys, etc. So there's a huge shortage of those organs. So should the law force him to give his kidney?
I think it would come down to a moral standpoint if the father wanted to give his kidney to his child to save his life.
Oh, great. So you think the father should have the choice?
That's correct, because I don't believe that these two things, when it comes to choosing to have a child and killing that child intentionally.
Well,
because this is the problem, because you first came on and then it was 99% chance, and then you changed it to be 100% chance.
Right, because we're making it analogous to pregnancy.
Let's make up some other fabricated analogy that makes it impossible to actually talk about the crux of the conversation, which
we're just testing your logic
wrong?
to see if you apply this principle anywhere else, or if you just apply it to this one circumstance. So we're just testing your logic.
I think that these circumstances are highly unique in their context.
Okay, but But your
Be-
answer is that the father should have the choice and shouldn't be forced by the
correct.
state
And
to give his kidney?
I say that because these are two different things. They might have similar concepts. However,
Right.
I don't believe that they are the same.
So that's what analogies are. They're similar and
Sure. Thank you.
they test the
Yeah.
same concept, right? But they're not exactly the same. That's the whole point of an analogy. But my question is, if the father should have the choice about whether to provide his body components to save his own child, in this circumstance, why shouldn't the mother have the choice about whether to provide her own body to a
Okay.
child
So
to save the other child?
within the confines of this, you can live with two kidneys, right? So let's make sure that the analogy states that he gives one of his kidneys to his child and then they both can live.
Right. The question is, should the state compel him to by force?
Fucking thank you.
Team two.
Fucking thank you.
I'm
Fucking
gonna
thank you.
No, the state should not have to force him. Again, and
I
I'm gonna
agree.
go with I'm gonna
I
go with the
agree.
same line of thinking that these are two different scenarios.
Right. But in both cases, a parent has to provide their body or the components of their body at risk to themselves and at cost and burden to themselves to
What do you
save the
mean
life
cost?
of their
What do you mean
child.
burden? And what do you mean harm? If you said harm, I can't remember.
Oh, I said cost and burden.
Cost and burden.
Right.
Define burden.
So burden is like if you have to go through surgery, you have to go through recovery, there are risks associated with it.
Right?
There are long-term effects, right? Like that can happen if you only have one kidney or if you have to go through surgery. There are potential complications. There are potential, bodily
Sure, but you
shortcomings you
also
can
get to
have.
live. So are we saying that the burden to have to maybe go through some recovery, the burden to have to maybe invest a little more of your money into your care, is that more important than a human life?
Well, I don't know. Is it more important in the case of the 6-year-old child who needs a kidney?
They both can live in this scenario.
Right. So, but in the case of the child, the 6-year-old child, you think the father should have the choice. Whereas in the case of the pregnancy, you don't think the mother should have the choice.
No,
No?
I don't think that the mother should get the option to murder her child.
Okay, but the father gave this gene to his child. He knew that was a risk when he had a
But
child.
that's not murder.
And he can survive with only one kidney. So now
But
he's
that's not
withholding
murder, my
his,
friend.
but he could save his child by giving his body to his child, giving a part of his
Correct, my
body.
friend, but that's still not
I don't
murder.
I don't see how me withholding my body from someone else is murdering them.
Y- You intentionally killing someone,
Do you know what the
that
abortion pill does, Trevor?
Dean just explained it to me. He said it shuts down the woman's bodily resources so
So
that
what
the
it does,
baby's
so
starves the baby of essential life-giving
not
things, which
exactly.
will cause it to die.
So what it does
Correct?
is it binds. So I have a hormone called progesterone in my body. That progesterone goes to my uterus and helps keep the placenta attached to my uterus. So all this pill
Okay.
does is it binds to progesterone, right? So progesterone can't go to my uterus. So
Sure.
because my hormones aren't going to my own uterus, the placenta detaches. Right? So it literally just
Okay.
detaches. It doesn't even touch the fetus.
Okay, my friend, but you're still taking the pill knowing that the baby is going to die.
So
So that
the
is
reason
murder.
that So the reason that the baby dies is because their natural state is that they are unable to sustain themselves without being attached to me. But that still doesn't obligate me to keep them attached to me just because they are unable to sustain themselves being
Yes,
attached.
but you literally caused the thing to make them detach. You did it.
Right. Well, because because I'm not agreeing to allow them to remain inside my body.
Correct. Whatever way you want to put words on this, you're doing the thing that causes the baby to die.
I'm
So that,
causing
my
them to
friend, is
detach from
murder.
me. And that is that
So,
murder is unjust killing.
okay,
Okay.
just like Dean
So
has
if
been
I don't
saying,
consent for
unalive,
somebody to use my body, I do not have to let them use my body.
whatever words you want to use, my friend,
Well,
because whether you want to
same
use
whatever words you
unalive,
want to use.
whatever words you want to use, whether it's unalive, murder,
Sure.
detach, remove, stop the production of bodily resources so that the thing is no longer attached and then withers away into nothingness, it's still murder.
So what you're saying is that the fetus is entitled to my uterus, is entitled to my nutrients, is entitled to the calcium from my teeth and my bones, is entitled to push my organs around, is entitled to tear my genitals on the way out, is entitled to give me pelvic floor damage, is entitled to cause me,
Well,
postpartum
those are
depression.
some of those are the things that might happen during pregnancy.
Those are the things that, well, most of those things do happen during pregnancy.
Prove it.
I'm not going to educate. You can look up side effects of pregnancy, and
Correct. So you can't
that's a
prove it in
good
this moment.
normal pregnancy.
Some of
We
those
don't
things
even have to
happen.
get
Hey,
into the possible like very serious complications of pregnancy and
here,
childbirth.
and let me just say this. Let me just say this. Um, Childbirth is something that I'll never go through, right? I'll be with my wife every step of the way, but it's something I'll never go through. Can't ever understand it for all the ladies out there that are listening, to include yourself, ma'am. That's just but at the same time, those are the things when you consent, if you are a heterosexual woman and you have sex with a man and you have that potentiality of getting pregnant, those are the things that you consent to should
Right,
either
right.
should your birth control fail. So when you take a pill that intentionally causes the placenta to detach so it can't get its uh, life sustaining nutrients, that is murder. You're intentionally doing it.
You're trying to say that withholding my own nutrients that belong to me from being taken by someone else is murder. But
But
you're not saying, but you're saying that withholding your own kidney because it belongs to you from saving your own child's life is not murder.
yeah, but there's two kidneys in this scenario. So I can give one to the kid and he lives.
But you still don't think you should be forced. That's the point. But you think
Yeah,
the woman should be forced by law. You should be compelled by the state.
but in one of those scenarios, the other one isn't murdered.
Neither one is murder. Both of them are the person not consenting to give any part of their body to another
You,
person to save their life.
well, my friend, you consented when you had sex,
You
knowing
consented
that.
when you made a child that you knew had a 5% chance of carrying your defective kidney gene, and yet you don't think you should be forced to give them your kidney.
Correct. Because one is
That,
murder.
I mean,
Again,
that's just inconsistent.
it's not inconsistent,
It's
my friend,
totally
because one
inconsistent.
is murder and one is
I mean, you can
not.
say that, but you're not actually like substantiating it in any sort of logical way.
I did. Because
You're
you
not.
said, do you know what the abortion pill does, or what'd you call it? I'm sorry. The Prezogene or whatever. Hey, sorry about that. I can't
The
pronounce that.
abortion pill that binds to
The abortion.
progesterone so that it doesn't go
Correct.
to my uterus.
Correct. Correct.
It literally just keeps it going from my ovaries to my own uterus and doesn't even touch the fetus.
Right, but you know
Right.
what you're doing, right?
I
Because
am
that's what it's
withdrawing
there for.
consent for somebody else to use my body and be attached to my body and siphon off things from the inside of my body.
What are they siphoning off? What are you losing?
So, like, for example, women will lose their teeth during pregnancy because it takes the calcium from their bones and their teeth. They get a higher risk
Yep.
of osteoporosis. It shortens their telomeres, which actually shortens their life by about 2 years per pregnancy.
Oh, but don't women live longer than men still?
How is
A
that
lot
wrong?
of lot of toothless women walking around out there, huh?
I mean, this feels like a deflection and not like actually addressing.
It's not a deflection.
You asked
I
what does
mean,
the baby take, what does the
but is
fetus
that
take from?
every woman? Is that every single woman?
It's many women.
Define many.
You can look up the numbers for yourself.
Okay, well,
Most
if you're
people
gonna
can live
bring
with
if
only
you're gonna
one kid.
bring,
Most people can live with only one kidney. I don't know the numbers for people who like have a higher rate of dying with only one kidney, and you don't know them either, and you still don't think someone should be forced to go through that to save their
okay,
own child.
yeah, but it's fairly common knowledge that people can live with one kidney. That's why we have two of them.
Cool. So then we can force him to give a kidney.
I mean, if that's your scenario, then sure. Like I don't.
Well, do you
Whatever you
agree with
want to
it?
do with that. No, I don't. I already told you that.
Okay. Then you have no justification for forcing me to give my body to somebody that I don't
I
consent
already
to use
gave
my
it to
body.
you. I already gave it to you. I'll say it again. One is murder and one isn't.
Yeah, but you're just like using a word thinking that equals some kind of like
But words have meaning, do they
substantiation,
not?
and it
Do
doesn't. You're
words
just
have meaning?
restating your claim, you're not supporting it.
Do words have meaning?
Yes. But
Right.
you're still
So when
not
I say
substantiating.
murder,
You're just saying, well, one's murder and one's not. One's murder, one's not. That's just restating
that's
a
right,
claim. It's not
because
supporting why one's murder and one's not.
yes, okay, my friend, but because one of the analogy that you're using, it doesn't seem like the same thing.
Okay. Well,
Maybe you should have, and
substantiate it.
I'm really not trying to be a jerk, but your analogy should maybe be better because, in my opinion, in my view, the way that you asked me the question, so now I'm responding to it. In the case that there is a child who needs a kidney from his father because there was a small chance that he would pass on this gene that would require him to have it, I don't think that he should be forced to give it to
You
him.
mean because the chance was small?
Not because the chance was small. No, because remember, we changed your analogy from being 99% certain that
No,
the
the
child will
chance
die
of
to
passing the
100%.
gene was small.
That doesn't have anything to do with it because in the
You just
scenario he
referenced
has
it.
it.
You said because he had a
Yes, but
small chance of passing on this gene.
right, but that's not where I was laying the foundation of my argument.
Okay.
Within the context or the confines of the analogy, you're saying that he has it. He's already got it. So
He has
in
what?
my he
He's a
has
carrier of the gene. And
no,
he
that's what
doesn't
I
have
mean.
the condition. He's a carrier
My
of the
friend,
gene, and he knows he's a carrier of the gene, and he knows the fetus
my
has a
friend,
5% chance of.
you're not listening to me. You
Oh, I'm
have it
listening to
wrong.
every word.
No, I'm telling you that he has it in terms of the kid already has the gene and he needs the kidney. That's what I'm talking about.
Right,
Okay.
because the father passed it to him. Yes.
Correct. I'm
Cool.
glad we're on the same page now. Um, no, geez, now I don't even remember what I was saying because we got so off track there. Because it's not murder should he decide, I'm not going to give you my kidneys. That is not him intentionally killing his son or his daughter, whoever it is. That's not
How
him
is it not?
intentionally
He
killing them.
caused it, and now
But
he will provide his body
how did he cause it?
to give the child the requirements they need for life.
Well, what did he do to give himself that gene that he would then, in this analogy, inevitably pass on to his child?
What do you mean? What did he do?
You said that he caused it. So what did he do to cause the gene that
He
would
had a
then
child
inevitably have
knowing
his...
he agreed, he consented to have a child knowing he carried this gene and knowing he had a 5% risk of passing on this gene to his child, knowing his
Yeah,
child might one day need a kidney because of this gene that he passed on
yeah,
because
but
he
the
took the
gene
risk of
is the
having a child.
cause. The gene is the cause, not the man. So then where did he get the gene from? Within
Oh,
the
the gene is the
confines,
cause? Wait,
is it
why
not?
do I get pregnant? Do I
Because
cause myself to get pregnant? Do I cause myself to be fertile? Do I cause myself to have a uterus?
no, the cause is you having sex, knowing that that is the opportunity that you'll have a child.
And the cause was you having a child knowing you have a 5% chance of passing on your defective gene to that child.
All right, that's fair.
Great.
That one's fair. But yeah, still, I stick with my argument, which is one is murder and one's
Yeah,
not.
but you're
And if
just
you
that's still just restating a claim. You're not
okay, well,
supporting in
you
any way.
substantiate it then.
You're just
You
like, well, I give it a
substantiate.
different label, therefore it's not the same.
Okay, my friend, then you substantiate it. Why?
I have been substantiating it.
Why?
Both
What's the difference?
cases are
Why?
somebody taking a risk and knowing that someone could exist in a state of dependency, and the only way you can meet their needs for the requirements of life is to provide components of your body to that other entity. And without you providing your body to that other entity, that entity will die.
Yeah, but they're not the same
I-
because one is a
Because
child in the
one's
womb.
murder, right?
One is the child in the womb, and one is a child that is not in the womb and has been living for, I think, based on your analogy, 6 years.
Okay. How is it different, though? They still need things to live. They're still in a state of dependency because of risks that you took.
Okay.
Okay.
But I still don't think yes, they are in a state of dependency, both of them, the baby that is in the womb and the child who needs the kidneys.
Right.
Based on your analogy, and
Right.
I just want to make sure that I have this straight. This is my response. In your analogy, I don't believe that the man should have to give his kidneys to his child because there's no judicial system. Again, this is the same argument I used with Dean. There's no judicial system in place saying that is something, and there's no moral thing saying, well, if you don't, then you're wrong. I think
So,
some people might choose to have a moral standing on that. I know I probably certainly would. If it was somebody that I
so
knew or just a story that happened, then maybe.
Okay, so that's what we call an appeal to legality. So you're saying because the legal system doesn't make us do it now, therefore it's not moral to change that legal system to make people give it to them. You're just using
No,
like,
I
well,
said
because the
judicial.
law is the way it is now, that equals morality. Well,
Yeah, I know, but
by that argument, um, abortion has been a constitutionally protected right in the state I live in for the last 53 years. So by that argument, abortion is very moral because it has been legally protected by our state's constitution.
okay, yeah, but I said judicial or moral.
Yeah, that's appeal to legality. You're just trying to say, well, it's moral or immoral. Like it's moral because it's not like legally we don't have to do it now.
No, I'm
But
not.
it's
No,
not
I'm
that's not an
saying and
argument
or.
for like the morality or immorality of something.
I said and or.
This still doesn't change it. Like
Yes, it
that's like
does.
saying slavery, like, 200 years ago, well, slavery is moral because it's legal, right? Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral. Just because something is illegal doesn't mean it's immoral.
I would agree with that. Yes, I would agree. Yes.
Perfect. Anyway, Dean, I don't know if you want to take back over here, but
Yeah, I think I'm gonna hit the hay. This was fun though. I really did enjoy it. Hey, thanks for coming on. Can't remember what your name is. That was cool. I think we all got.
Breeza, that was awesome.
cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, honestly, I really enjoyed you coming up in here. You know, you are much better at articulating that analogy alongside, just debating abortion in general than I am. This is why I quite literally went to you before I started my live today. W
What'd you
fucking
do?
Breeza in chat. Well, honestly, I really enjoyed that, and I think a lot of the people in chat did as well. Do you want to take another debate? Chat, do you want her to take another debate? How do you feel about that, Breeza?
I can kind of like sit by and like let you go, and then maybe I'll chime
Oh.
in.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. I honestly, I like doing one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Thank you for the standards. Do you want to do another one-on-one?
Um, sure. You could bring someone else up.
Okay, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But
No,
like,
yeah, you could do it for sure.
sure, sweet. Yeah, I'd love to bring someone else up for a one-on-one with you because I really enjoyed watching that. I feel like I took a lot away from it. But yeah,
Okay.
let's go ahead and get you someone else. Let's go ahead and let's go to get Jordan in here. But if you don't want to, you definitely
No,
don't
no,
have
I'm
to.
good. I'm good.
In the meantime, y'all, if y'all are enjoying the debates, make sure to tippity tap away in that phone screen and hit that follow button. Also follow Breeza as well. She's a amazing creator. Looks like Jordan did not load up in here. I'll go ahead and get you someone else. What about? Let's go ahead and get Cooper up here. We'll let Breeza cook. We'll let Breeza take one more debate. What's going on, Cooper? How old are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
How old are you?
I'm 22.
Okay, sweet. Do you think that abortion's wrong during the first trimester?
Yes, I do believe abortion is wrong in the first trimester. I think if you think it's wrong in the first trimester, you have to think it's wrong. I think it's all or nothing. So if you think it's wrong in the first, again, with the second and third. If you think it's okay in the first, again, you have to in the second and third.
Sweet. So go ahead. Take it away, Breeza.
Okay, so why do you think abortion is wrong?
Well, life begins at conception, and if you end life, again, as stated earlier, it is murder. You're ending a human life, whether it be potential or not. You're ending a human life. So, again, as most people think that abortion is wrong, I believe it's murder.
Okay. So you said it's a human life. Do human lives, is every human life entitled to what they need in order to sustain their own life?
Not tracking. Say that again.
Like, is every human life entitled to what they need to sustain their own life?
I mean, life, liberty, I think everybody deserves a chance, and everybody needs what they need to live a
Right.
life.
So am I entitled to everything that I need to live?
No, I don't think you're entitled to everything you need.
Oh, I'm not entitled. Okay, where do the limitations of what I'm entitled to? Where do those limitations fall?
I'm sorry, but I'm not picking up on
Like,
that.
what am I not entitled to? Like, in order for me to live? You said you're not entitled to everything you need to live. So, like, what am I not entitled to?
What are you not? I mean, okay, excuse me. I mean, you are entitled to. I mean, I think
Okay.
you're entitled to air. You're entitled to food. The necessary things to live.
Am I entitled to water? Clean water?
I think you should be.
Am I entitled to housing?
I think you should be. Now, if you're able-bodied and don't do anything with that, maybe not.
Okay. Okay. Am I entitled to medicine if I need medicine to live?
If you need medicine, I think you should have access to it.
Okay. Am I entitled to, like, if I need your bone marrow, am I entitled to your bone marrow if I need it?
I mean, I wouldn't say you're entitled to mine or anybody else's specifically.
Why not?
There's donors out there that you can get that from if you need it. I think it's for the most part available.
What if they tested everyone on Earth and found out that you're the only match for me, and without your bone marrow, I will die? Am I entitled to your bone marrow?
I see what you're saying, but that's not something that's realistic. So I'm not understanding. I don't think
It's just a hypothetical. Like, I'm not saying this is actually happening. I'm just asking, like, if that were the situation, would I be entitled to your bone marrow?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. My answer would be no. I don't think you're entitled to that in particular. I see what you're saying with that, but that's not something that's plausible at all. So I don't understand the
It's not
the
really
logic behind
relevant.
that.
I mean, hypotheticals are
Yeah,
just to test to see, where your
and
logic, where your morals fall, etc. So
yeah,
you
and
think
I do see what you're saying with that, but I think if you're going to do a test like that, it needs to be something relevant, and it needs to be something within the same parameters of the argument we're talking about. I don't know. I don't want to get too off topic with hypotheticals. I think you guys just had a very long conversation with a bunch of random hypotheticals. I think we can stay on topic and whatnot. But anyway, you can.
okay. Well, just to be
that's my
clear,
2 cents on it. But
just to be clear, in the bone marrow analogy, you think could you give your bone marrow if you wanted to in order to save my life?
if I wanted to, yes.
If you wanted to, right?
Well,
Right.
me,
So you think
yeah,
it should be a choice?
a total stranger as well. We're talking about here.
Right.
So Yeah, it
Right.
should be a choice. Most people, most people that knew that they were the only one on earth, I think anybody with any type of morals would do that, especially when the outcome is not death. You can
Okay.
live with one
Okay.
kidney.
What
Okay, I
about
give
blood? What if I have a really, really rare blood type and I need like 2 pints of your blood to live if you're the only match? Like, do you think you should be like morally or legally compelled to give me 2 pints of your blood?
legally no.
Legally, no.
No.
Okay, why not?
Yeah, very high risk on my end for again somebody that is a complete stranger that I do not know. So,
It's high risk
I
for
think I
you to
think that's
give,
a big
wait,
risk.
it's high risk for you to give
So
me
you
blood?
can't force
It's high risk for you to give me blood, you're saying?
2 pints. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not sure. I've never given blood, so I'm not exactly familiar with that. But I mean, if there is an overwhelming risk for me, no, I don't think it should
What
be
if it's
legal.
a
I don't think it
very,
should be
very
legal.
small
You
risk?
should legally have two, period.
What if it's a really
But
small risk for you? Because 2 pints isn't that much, and
I still
you make
legally,
more
I don't
blood.
think you should have.
You still don't think so? Why not?
Okay, well, why you don't have to legally? This is a total stranger who I have no connection to, yet I legally should have to give them my blood. No, not at all. Now,
Okay,
granted, morally,
let's say
most
I'm
people
your
probably
child.
would.
Let's say I'm your child and you're my dad, and I need a blood transfusion, and you're the only one who has matching blood. Should you be legally forced to give it to me?
Again, no, but I think,
No?
but but I mean, we can switch right back to absolutely any parent would do that. So
Sure. Well, not
you know,
necessarily. There's some asshole parents out there, but like
well, maybe they
let's
shouldn't
just
be parents,
say
but
I don't know. There are some parents who wouldn't. So should they be legally forced to?
no.
Okay. So then can you tell me why a fetus would get to occupy the inside of my body, siphon off my resources, and put me at great risk and cause me a lot of pain, illness, etc., um, you know, in order
Yeah.
to sustain its own life?
Yeah, I think it's a lot different when you put it into those terms. I mean, we're talking about a potential human being that is part of you that you created on purpose.
I created on
So,
purpose? Can we
so I think it's
control, can we
I think
control
it's a
whether we
little
get
different
pregnant
there.
100%?
Well, here's the thing: sex is meant to have children. That is
Meant
why
according to who?
it is the purpose to procreate. Sex, that is what happens when you do that.
So I can agree that like procreation is probably one of the biological functions of sex. I wouldn't say that for human
It's def
beings
it's
that
it's
reproduction is the
definitely the
main
main one.
function of sex. I would say sex in human beings is primarily social. It's for bonding, it is for intimacy, etc.
Well, I mean, I would say it's probably pretty even, but I mean, definitely, there's two or three. So that's pretty much that. I'm not again the analogies and stuff. I don't really think
These aren't analogies.
they're
Uh, okay.
continue.
So, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so sex is, fuck. I just totally lost my train of thought. Okay, so, oh, you were saying like you created the person, you created the fetus on purpose. You created the baby on purpose, right? So can people like try for years and years and years to get pregnant and not succeed?
Definitely, it happens.
Right, and can people try really hard not to get pregnant and still get pregnant?
Yes, but that is a risk that you knowingly, willingly take
Sure,
when you engage in those kind of actions.
sure, absolutely.
Therefore, therefore,
Absolutely. But do we
you have to accept the outcome.
do I
You knew it going
control
in.
whether a sperm penetrates an egg and then that fertilized egg attaches to my uterine lining? Do I control that?
No, not necessarily, but that is what is supposed to happen during sexual intercourse.
Supposed to, according to who?
I'm confused. That is what happens when you have sex. That is
It's definitely
how.
what can happen. I wouldn't say like that there's some intent behind it or that it's absolutely supposed to. I definitely agree that it can happen, right?
Well,
And you're saying like, well,
it's it's
you're
kind
saying
of the
this is a possible outcome, right? Well, part of informed consent, consent to intercourse is only consent to intercourse, right? It's not consent to remain pregnant should a pregnancy occur, right? Because it's part of being informed about intercourse when you decide to have intercourse is knowing what the possible risks are. I know there's risks of pregnancy. I know there's risks of STDs, etc. And I know all of the ways in which to potentially mitigate those risks should they occur.
Yeah, that is true. I feel I see where you're going with this. I think we're a little off subject.
Are we?
I don't think this necessarily, is within the title of this. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, there is the chance, but again,
Right. So there's the
I'm not
chance.
sure.
So you're saying
I'm
like, well,
just not
because
sure.
you
I'm
have
just not sure where you're
knowledge.
going with this.
So wait, would you give an essay exception?
Again, like I stated in the beginning, I firmly believe what side you are on, you have to stick with the entire way. Otherwise, you don't have a relevant argument.
Yeah. Okay.
So no. Again, I'm pro-choice
Oh.
or excuse me. I'm pro-life.
Okay.
So
So you're
like I said,
pro-life, but you
it
say that it's kind of like my fault because I consented to sex knowing the risk, but that doesn't really matter to you because when you don't consent and you don't consent knowing the risks and you get SA'd, you still don't allow for abortion. So consent is really irrelevant to your stance.
No, it's not. I think we're talking about an innocent life here that had no say in it. I understand the whole sexual assault thing. You get into very fine lines with that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in that case particular. That is also not something that's very common at all. That's a big outlier. I don't think that again, people have their own individual stance on that. Like I said
Okay,
earlier,
but my
I'm all
point
or
is,
nothing on it.
okay, sorry to interrupt you, but my point is you're saying that consent to sex is the reason that I now have this obligation to allow somebody else to use my body and to go through all of the burden and the cost that it is to me for me to bring somebody else into the world for their benefit. You're saying the reason I have that obligation is because I consented to sex. So what is the reason a woman has that obligation who got pregnant from SA?
I mean, I see what you're going with there, but I still, you know, two bads, don't equal right. So I still don't think you should be able to kill, an innocent life because an unfortunate scenario happened to you.
Okay, but so you think that the law should force the woman who is SA'd to allow another human to use her body for 9 months and cause her a whole lot of issues?
No, I'm not even getting into the legal side of things. This is the title is why is abortion wrong, not why should it be illegal or legal. I'm not even arguing that it should be legal or illegal.
Well, what do you think on that? Do you think it should be illegal?
I don't know. That's that's different. I'm not. I'd have to think on that how I feel about that. But what I believe is morally and immorally wrong. Like I said, why is abortion wrong? It's what I think. The whole legal
Okay, so
aspect.
you
I
just
think is a
think
little
it's
bit
ending a
different.
life, but it's okay to end the life of our child. It's okay to end the life if a father doesn't like consent to give 2 pints of his blood to his child. Then it's okay to end a life.
Again, like it was stated earlier, one is murder. I don't believe that is murder,
It's
and
the same argument
I
as the
don't
other
think.
guy.
Dude,
But I don't. But you
at
don't think
some
it's
point, I
relevant.
feel like I gotta start like IQ testing these guests or something, man.
Yeah, but I don't think it's relevant to abortion. What you're trying to say right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
so if I'm sitting across the table from somebody and I have life-saving medication, and I have awesome. I have life-saving medication sitting in the middle of the table. It's my medication. And the person across the table reaches for it and I pull it away. because it's my medication, and they die because they didn't get it. Have I killed them?
No.
No, I didn't.
No, again, I think all these analogies are just crazy to me. I think it brings off subject. They're not something that is even plausible. It's like extreme hypotheticals, you know.
But this is just like complaining about the hypotheticals rather than like engaging in them.
Yeah, but what you do is you try to trap people in these by doing scenarios that are not likely, that would never happen, and then you try to do a play on their words with it. So
Wait, are
it's
you
not,
saying like
again,
no
it's not
parent
again.
has ever had to like give their child like blood or a kidney or stem
No, but
cells?
no, no. What you just said is correct, but also in those three things that you just named does not end in a life being ended, whereas abortion does. So
Yes, it
they're
does.
not
If you
they're not.
withhold those things from that person, they die. The life is ended. The life of your child is ended.
Okay. Unfortunately,
You know,
80% of people responding to this poll say skip. I appreciate you for the sunglasses.
Okay.
So, Cooper, I think we're gonna go ahead and move on, bro.
that I
I
mean
don't
that
think you're getting it. Like, look, no,
that's fine.
she's giving you analogies of like other cases that are
That
like spot on to like pregnancy or the
listen,
providence of care to that fetus from the mother. And every single one you seem to say, well, it's an individual's choice if they provide or do not provide for another person, regardless of the situation or the context in which led to that, right? But then when it comes to abortion, you just kind of special pleading and saying it's wrong.
Right.
So, no, so again, like I said, I'll hop off here. I see what you're saying, but again, it's all these analogies that are extreme hypotheticals that are not common, that really would never happen, and and when
Well,
you
it
do
doesn't
these,
matter that they're not common. It doesn't matter that they never happen. What matters is the fact that if they did happen, you wouldn't deem it as wrong.
yeah, but they're
If we woke up tomorrow and like one of those hypotheticals played out, you wouldn't see this thing that's morally on par, logically on par with with abortion as wrong, right? So it's just taking these two instances and you're just special pleading in the case of abortion because your logic doesn't hold true.
no, and I see what you're saying, but again, abortion is not like any of these other things that you're
Sure it is.
comparing
It's
to.
logically on par.
It's
Then name the symmetry breaker.
in what analogy in particular?
No, name the
For
symmetry
example,
breaker.
in what analogy?
Any of them.
For example, the one with the car earlier, I was listening, I guess it was Trevor that was on here. You're talking about, if you hit somebody, you would be obligated, to give them that if you use the same logic. So I think for there, well, the person you hit with the car, they obviously took the same risk you did driving that day.
Infinite cap.
An innocent child took no risk. That is somebody totally innocent. So if somebody took the
No, no,
risk
this
to
was
hit
no. The
somebody,
analogy would infer that this was an individual just walking on the side of the street.
okay, I'll apply the same logic. That individual took the risk. He is walking on the side of the street. A child is innocent. They took no, that's not
Right?
a
No,
risk that
they
child
didn't take a
took.
risk, right?
So
So this is going to be like a 10-year-old kid
yes,
walking on the side of the street. There was no risk. There was no risk taken by that child, right? For like
but there
they
is a
didn't like
risk because
actualize or realize any risk, right?
okay, that doesn't mean that there's not a risk because they didn't realize there was a risk. They were
Well, I mean,
walking on the side of the road. I
if you
think
want to like
that's the
draw the analogy
symmetry.
between that, that'd just be the risk of getting aborted as a fetus. So are you saying that like yeah, there's a risk that this fetus is going to be aborted? Is abortion now okay because that risk exists?
No, that the fetus took no risk. This
Just
is
like
a
that child
this is
took
a
no risk. No, you're saying that
but
some
but
children get hit when they're walking on the side of the street. Therefore, there's a risk of your child walking down the side of the street of getting hit. Some
yes,
fetuses get aborted when they're in the womb. Therefore, there's a risk of your fetus at getting aborted when you're inside the womb.
but
It's
but you're comparing somebody walking down the side of the street. That's an obvious, they took that risk. They are walking on the side of the street, as to where a fetus again took no
so
risk.
therefore it's acceptable. So if
What if
someone
I'm
takes a risk,
sitting in my house and Dean slams his car into my house and that's what puts me in the hospital and then I need a kidney? Then does he have to give me a kidney? Or it was also sitting in my house, like the risk I took, therefore like he doesn't have to give me a kidney because I took the risk of sitting in my house. where I knew somebody could slam a car into the side of my house.
Again, this is where I kind of lose the grasp, because now it's
No, because now they didn't take the
somebody hit
risk.
me in my own house
Because now
with a
they didn't
car.
engage in the risk. No, you don't like
It's
hypotheticals if they don't benefit you. You're
no,
you don't like hypotheticals if they don't benefit you. Not to mention that saying a child would take a risk by walking on the side of the street and then just getting fucking mauled by a car. This is called victim blaming.
Yeah.
Like, are you saying that like a woman would take the risk of going to a party at getting raped, therefore if she does get raped, it's not her fault, or it's her fault, or she is somehow like morally responsible for that? There's some responsibility that would fall in the place of that woman
no,
going to the party.
no.
Therefore,
This
like
is
when an individual engages in an action that involves no intention of like this child walking down the street of getting hit by a car, and they don't know that they could get hit by a car, they don't expect to get hit by a car, they don't think they'll get hit by a car, they don't even like know the risk of getting hit by a car, they're a fucking toddler, that there's no risk assumed by that. But I think Breeze's example is going to be better fit if you're sitting inside your house and you get hit by a car, some crazy driver drives through your window, and then you're dependent upon them for a kidney. Would they be obligated to give you a kidney?
Yeah, but I see, I do really and truly, I see what you're saying, and what you're trying to say with that, but it's where you lose me on these kind of things, and it's also, I mean,
So answer the question, Cooper. And that actually happens. That unironically happens.
Yeah.
so
Do you
so
want me to
this
send you like news articles of people like driving their cars through people's houses?
that's not something common, but I mean, you definitely could
How
if you
common does it
wanted
have to
to.
be? Are you saying that if there's only one woman that has ever gotten an abortion, then abortion would be morally permissible?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So therefore, how common an instance is does not change the moral permissibility of the outcome of it. So now that we know that this is uncommon for a driver to drive their car through a house, would they have that moral responsibility to provide for that dependency? Yes or no?
So just to get on the same page, you are asking that if I drove my car through someone's house and then somehow they got injured and needed a kidney, would I be responsible for giving them that kidney?
Yep.
I mean, sure. I'll say my answer is yes. That is, I caused that. I injured them, and so
Do you think the law should force them to?
I'll say yes. I'll say yes to that.
You think the law should force them to? I don't know if he has a bad connection.
Should the law force them to?
Like you're saying, yes.
I may have bad connection. I apologize. But should the law
force them to give a kidney if they don't want to?
hypothetic? No, I mean, I don't think they would be forced there. I don't think they should have to. I think maybe they should.
So just like,
but again, I don't believe.
So just like a mother should be able to get an abortion in the first trimester. But do you think a mother should be able to get an abortion?
Should be able to? No, I don't.
Name the symmetry breaker. Name the symmetry breaker. Name the symmetry breaker, Cooper.
Okay, if I could speak, I see what you're doing with the logic thing, but again, I think it's a play on that kind of things. I mean, do you think abortion should be
logic thing? I am dealing with the logic thing. We should both be dealing with the logic thing.
Okay, do you think should abortion be illegal? Do you believe it should be legal or illegal in the third trimester?
I think it should be illegal.
I think it should be legal.
You think it should be illegal?
I think it should be legal in medical emergencies that are completely left up to the doctor, not written into law. And I think, if she has to end the pregnancy for some crazy reason, then it can just be a live delivery.
So my question to you is, what is the difference in between the third, the first, and the second when it's all going to be the same in due time? The potential in the
because
first
I don't care about potentiality. I value actualization over potential, like over like
Okay,
potentiality, right? So
okay.
like a
Let
fetus,
me.
like a fetus during the third trimester is going to possess like the ability to deploy consciousness because of thymocortical connections. I mean, a fetus in the third trimester is going to be viable outside the womb. Therefore, like a C-section or another form of removing the fetus that would keep it alive would be best fit because that would be the gentlest means necessary of ending that rights infringement upon the mother's bodily autonomy. I mean, and not to mention that I think that like the actualizations of traits such as consciousness are going to bear like moral relevance when like the potential for them or not.
Okay, so you believe life is valued on the consciousness,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, what about somebody in a coma? What about somebody that's asleep? If somebody's asleep, does that give you the right because they're not
No.
conscious to go in there and stab them? Does that give you the right to end
No,
somebody's
because they
life
have the
that's in a
ability to
coma that
deploy
could wake up?
consciousness.
All
Wait,
right.
I'm so sorry. Do you think that like a fetus during the third trimester is conscious? No, they just have the ability to deploy it. I only value the ability to deploy it.
So you value the potential is what you're saying, right?
No, I value the ability to deploy it. Big difference.
The ability to deploy it and the potential. What is the difference there?
Yeah, because one is potential thymocortical connections, and then one is actual thymocortical connections.
Okay, okay. Again, I understand that what you're saying. The first trimester is potential, but if left to its natural processes, it will in fact happen.
Yeah, I mean, we could see like
It's
some
just a it.
statistical chance of it happening, but once again, I don't value potentiality because potentiality only exists in an abstract sense. And at the end of the day, I'm going to value the mother's actual conscious desires, rights, attitudes, and beliefs more than the potential desires, rights, attitudes, belief of the fetus, right?
Yes, right. I see what you're saying, but even in the first trimester, there is potential there. But again, if left to the
Right, but
natural
potential doesn't
processes,
fucking
there will
matter.
be.
Name the potential doesn't fucking matter. Dude, if I told you that like there's a potential for my cat to become a cat person, like that could talk and like, like engage in conversation like you and I could in 5 years, would it be wrong to put it up for adoption?
No,
No, would it be wrong to inject it with an antidote to reverse that potential process from ever occurring?
I mean, I'm not saying that. You're talking about a cat that may be able to talk one day. I get you're trying to compare the
Yeah, so
logic
this
there.
this cat is like this cat
So
is going to be a person like you and I in 5 years. Is it immoral for me to inject it with a serum that will make it so it will not be a person in 5 years?
no, but again, we're
So
talking
then
about a
that's not
cat that
immoral,
it's
right? So it's not immoral. Like so, therefore, potentiality doesn't matter. It was a potential person like you and I, and you Cooper ended. Thank you so much for that Panther pause. You Cooper ended that process. It was a potential person like you and I, and you're telling me that you would take away that cat's chance from ever being a person like you or I?
no, but
Wow, you're so sick for
we're
that.
talking.
You understand
No,
like
but
the
we're
like? Do you
talking about
understand like the
a
analogy here?
cat. Dude. It's that I think that's where you guys
We're talking
lose.
about a cat that in 5 years is going to be like you and I in the same sense that we're talking about a fetus who has a lower cognitive ability than a cat that will be like you and I in 9 months, right?
No, we're
Like you
talking about
understand? Like
a human. This is again. That's
what's the
not.
relevance of the DNA?
Again, I think this is where you lose me. You're talking about something that would never happen and that is
No,
never possible, and then
no,
we're
no.
talking
So,
about
so, so,
human
like,
life. It's
actually, so
different,
no, no, no. So, what we're talking about
right?
is it's an analogy, right? And once again, we've already discredited the plausibility of these things as having any ramifications on the moral outcomes of them. When you earlier asserted if there's just one woman ever that has gotten an abortion, that like abortion would still be wrong, or if this one woman was considering an abortion before abortion had ever been done, would it still be wrong according to you? Yes. Has it ever happened before that point? No. Therefore, how often or frequent something happens or its plausibility of occurring doesn't matter when we're talking about hypotheticals. And by you simply stating that, like, you are seriously discounting and rejecting like the entire like study of philosophy. Like I hope you know that. Like there exist individuals, there exist professors, there exist like branches of universities, there exist like some of the most intelligent individuals that have ever like walked on this planet that have made these analogies, right? And you were just saying, oh, that's all bullshit. Like fuck,
No,
like all these philosophers are BS. BS. All these universities are BS. All this stuff is just BS, right? But no, it's not BS. It's fucking logic. And individuals like you might quite plausibly find logic to be BS. So when I'm asking you this question of the cat person, when I'm saying that, okay, here's this cat, in 9 months it's going to be a person like you and I with the ability to talk like you and I, with the ability to engage like you and I. Is it immoral to inject it with an antidote that would stop that process? And you said, no, it's not immoral. So then why is it immoral to get an abortion that would stop that same process, and the only difference being the DNA of a human?
Yeah, right. But I think these analogies only work, and I think this is where a lot of people get lost, including myself, is when the
Then go
analogy,
study.
the
Like, if the
logic.
analogy doesn't work, name the symmetry breaker. You have to name what isn't logically on par. Like, I
Okay,
don't understand how like the common folk just doesn't understand what an analogy is. Like, I
one.
understand you don't have an education on this, but you are quite
Okay,
literally just an uneducated man sitting here
okay. Well,
saying that the Socratic method and this thing that's been developed by philosophers for centuries and has been used to just tear apart ideologies across all of human history by some of the highest IQ individuals of all time is just BS. Like, you understand that,
look.
right?
So okay, you had your piece. I think that it's getting a little off. I think the symmetry breaker there is one is something that is absolutely impossible for it to happen. We're talking about an animal versus human. I think an analogy only works if it's truly comparable.
That's
I know
your
you.
complaint with every analogy we've brought up. It's like, oh, it's
No,
Yeah,
not likely to happen,
yeah.
it's
so
not
it's
that.
not really exactly the same. Well, that's what an analogy
It's,
is.
I
And
think
sometimes you
I
have no
think,
idea, Cooper. I've been in many like
okay.
debates. You have no idea the
Yeah.
ridiculous analogies we get asked on a daily basis.
Yeah, then also Cooper, imagine this. Imagine that like weapons, like a gun, or sorry, a shmun, was impossible to make. So pew pews didn't exist; they were impossible to make, and like we had plausible reason to believe that
But they're
they would
not.
always be impossible to make. Dude, just listen to the hypothetical.
Okay.
If pew pews were impossible to make, would the thought experiment of a pew pew shooting someone, would that be immoral?
No, because it is actually impossible to make.
Right, but like the metaphorical idea of one unaliving someone for no good reason, would that still be wrong?
To murder anyone is wrong. Yes.
Right, so it would still be wrong, even though it's impossible, right? Like impossible.